Oh,
You got your phone
my
on, man.
my mouse ain't working. I'm clicking buttons. They ain't going. What about that one? That's better. There we go. I look hairy today. I need a haircut. What is up, Chat Ninja? Malarkey, how we doing today? Yes, we are outside. Boys, I do have the Zoom set up. We're gonna get that started a little bit later, maybe like 3:30ish. I just sent the Discord in the chat. If y'all go check that out. I'm gonna try to be active in it. That way we can send things through there. I don't have it really set up yet, but at least we can join and talk to each other.
Does Discord? I'm not super active on Discord. Like, if it's just us,
Don't ask me a question because I do not know the answer.
Like, we can't get banned. Like Discord.
Oh, they can ban you.
Like, even if they're not invited in, they can like read our chats.
Oh yeah,
That's crazy, man.
yeah. We'll have to. I think eventually we'll do something like John Moore did, where they're working on setting something up outside of any kind of third party app.
Like an FTP or
yeah,
something
they ended
like
up
that.
going to Gilded, but then he's gonna exactly. Salibi, what is up? First time here. Welcome. Today we are going to talk about, and there's a little bit of clickbait on that. I guess it's not clickbait. We're going to talk about David Hogg, and we're going to talk about maybe a little bit of Patriot Front if we get that far, and then we're going to talk about the new right. The overarching theme is going to be young men are the future. The question is going to be essentially, Josh, what attracts young men? Right? They're spending
fucking dudes.
the gym, steak, cookouts, big trucks,
boobies, and booties.
Let's see. Yeah, Shebc. Yeah, welcome, Ninja. There are way too many discords with spicy stuff. Y'all won't get got. Okay, that's promising. That's promising.
I mean, maybe.
Is it spicy enough, or is it too spicy?
Like, hey, beheading videos and porn.
That's
good.
okay.
You say N-word Heil Hitler. Better not do that.
Better not do that. Jim says, I went smashed that like button one time. Bam, just like that. Oh, I'm habitually a speaking pigeon again. My apologies. No, you good, Jim? Oh, I just noticed your avatar is a bird. Oh, okay. Yeah, if we can, hit that like button. Anybody that's in here, we're going to get this thing started. I do have a couple of videos lined up that we're going to look at. About an hour, well, it's probably about 2 hours now. Project Veritas dropped a teaser video behind the scenes where they got David Hogg. You know what Project Veritas does with James O'Keefe. They go in, They get these dates, and they get these people to just spill the beans. But the idea behind this one is David Hogg was DNC vice chair. And they basically booted him out for legality of voting reasons, which is kind of a little ironic there. But they're trying to get the young male vote, right? That's what the Democrats are after. That's why they put up somebody like Tim Walz again with Kamala Harris to try and gain that young male audience, because he's so relatable to us, Josh, right? He goes hunts and things.
Yeah,
he's so relatable. No, dude's a faggot. But they have somebody like David Hogg, and at least he's something. Now they're going to replace him with virtually nothing. I know that's a lot coming from me, but yeah, they're after the young male vote, and this is across the board through whether that's through churches trying to figure out how to get young men back into churches because they've run them all away. Why did they run them all away? What is appealing to young men? Josh, you want to give a hot take, kind of overarching, and then we'll dive into this thing.
Well, what's becoming more appealing to young men is God. It used to be like your base, and you do see that a little bit in like Andrew Tate and Myron, but you're like basically base male instinct, like watch porn, smoke weed, do what you want. That was kind of like what was seen as cool up until recently. And now people are quickly starting to realize, it didn't take very long, but people are starting to realize how empty that existence is. And you're seeing a lot of young men being pulled towards conservatism and largely back to religion itself. You're seeing a huge influx of young men converting to Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy because they crave. It's like this pendulum swing back the other way where it's like, okay, we tried just this Nietzschean depressing, oh, I'm an atheist and I can do what I want, as long as I get my herbal tea, back to tradition, back to let's reenact the Crusades.
Yes. Yeah. You say religion. I think it's a little bit more along the lines of search for tradition. And in that search for tradition, it is... once you boil it all down to bare bones, what it is they're looking for something that is real in reality, right? The truth is a predictor of reality. And if you have a worldview that is not predictive of reality, if it's not able to predict what is going to happen in the world around us, then it is not true. That is the defining thing of truth, is that it is real. Where's James at from yesterday? We can kind of dive into that one. But what's Ninja talking about? Crazy. You got to at least try to code Frigate Skittles something. I think he's looking for purpose. He's probably talking about like looking for purpose. Yeah, there is a purpose aspect to it, but I think once you boil it all down to the very, very core, it's going to have to be something along the lines of
something more traditional. Something
that is traditional, because tradition typically associates itself with reality,
with truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and these are the same in the end. This is a tweet, obviously, by some guy named Ken Kiplinstein. Nice. He says, this is a independent article. It says Democrats spending millions to learn how to speak to American men and win back the working class. And you got a trade worker here. I mean, I can do it. I can do it for, I don't know, a couple grand. I'll save you millions of dollars. Come talk to me for a couple grand. I'll tell you what you're doing wrong. Everything. You're doing everything wrong, dude. This is a podcast they're doing that the DNC has sponsored, essentially. And the question is, how do Dems win back young men? Let's just take a look at the picture on the screen, Josh. You want me to tell you something? This ain't it. You want a consult? This is a free consult. This is the easy one. This ain't it. This is not it, boys.
Jabba the Hutt and a fruitcake are not going to corral young men.
Give me Slender Man David Hogg over whatever this is right here. Start Dems wrong about men. We're not going to watch this thing. Messaging to men, make men feel welcome. Well, that's not it. Whatever this is not it. Meeting men where they're at. No. See, this is the thing. They want this inclusive messaging, right? They want this inclusivity. Men don't want this. This is all a feminine cope. Simple policy platform. Again, nobody wants inclusivity. Everybody wants exclusivity. That's the core of it, right? This is what is, when we get boiled down to what is truth, the truth is inherently divisive and it is inherently exclusive. Meeting young men where they're at. Josh, do you want to be met where you're at, or do you want to go to the gym and get better?
I want to go to the gym and get better.
Right? Oh, it's okay that you know, not picking on you directly, but it's okay that you're fat, that you're a glutton, right? It's okay. You know, you can be a part of our group. A bunch of trannies.
We're more than happy to have some freak. Yeah.
Yes, men want to get better. That is the core tenet of masculinity, is to make oneself better. If I had to, again, boil it down to the absolute bare bones, make men feel welcome. I mean, has anybody ever been to a locker room or a group chat with just dudes? Do they make you feel welcome, Josh? Do group chats of just men make you feel welcome?
No.
But it does make it makes you feel, yeah, go ahead.
It makes you feel at home because guys are just being guys. That's like this is something girls just don't understand. Like girlfriends, sisters, mom, whatever. Like when they hear how I interact with my good friends, they're like, "Why are y'all so mean to each other?"
Yeah.
It's like we're not. We're not. This is. I mean, it is mean, but that's kind of the point. Is that's how guys are. Guys are aggressive. Guys are mean-spirited.
I like it. I like this mental juggling. This battle of wits, right? Is essentially what it boils down to. is some type of joking with each other that turns into a little bit, maybe a little bit personal, but is that not the point, to kind of spar back and forth mentally,
Right.
with the jokes, if you want to call it that? And I think so. Obviously, Dems are wrong about men, and then they go on to explain why they're wrong about men. What a couple of idiots. Let's see, that was it. Let's scroll these real quick. How do you do, fellow men? Yeah, it should be a Tim Walz thing. Hitler looking for messaging experts to reconnect with surviving Jews. Yeah.
Oh,
Is that her? Oh,
baby.
what a great choice of those. That is brutal, dude.
I don't think that's the same person, but I mean,
think it is,
in
dude.
spirit.
I think it's the same
I
person.
think never mind. I think you actually might be right.
That's brutal, dude. Yeah, I mean, if this is how they're going to go about figuring it out, this ain't it. Let's see.
This is our fight song. Take back my life song. Prove we were right song. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes. 'Cause I still got.
All right, that's enough of that. Sorry, chat. That's what we are dealing with. That's what we're up against. How do we lose? Well, the answer, Josh, is they're cheaters. No, you called Tim Walz a fag hot. A frag hot. I'm not understanding. Our young men don't want feminism. That's exactly right. But the question is, what is masculinity? What is the problem is they have taken any sort of masculinity over the last decade or so and planted it as toxic masculinity. Any sort of non-feminine tropes are toxic masculinity.
Any man that's not emulating a woman is toxic.
Correct. That's their position. And so they're in a box right now where they can't get themselves out because they've played all of their cards. They have no cards left in hand, and what you see is exactly this on screen. This is it's never going to happen, dude. You have to tell the truth if you want young men. But it's not just the DNC. It's not just the DNC. It is churches too, and we're going to dive into that in a second. We want the approval to the absolute worst and lowest standard, though. Ninja, you're not on your game today, son. Or maybe we're just off. I'm just behind. Maybe I'm not on my game, Josh. Iron sharpens iron. Yeah, that's exactly right. Talking about kind of sparring back and forth. There was a time about 6 to 8 years ago. Somebody said something to me to the effect of, debate is a grown man's battlefield. And so that kind of struck me in the area of trying to learn new things and get better at the mental sparring rather than the physical. My T level's dropping. Yeah, so I mean that's what we're looking at. This is what the Democrats are kind of pushing in their idea of generating men to vote for them, right? But see, what we should take away from this is that everybody across the board, whether that's the churches, the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, everyone understands that the future is young men. And they're trying, it's not just men, it's young men specifically. This is a generational and a gender and generational aspect that's going to have to be kind of attacked. And they're losing. They're losing on all of these fronts. This is not the greatest, but his name's Neil. Oh, hold on.
Chevney.
Why can't I zoom in? There we go. Is that better? No, it's not. Chat, I'm all over the place. Let's try. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. All right, that's better. Neil, whatever his last name is, he's not white. In retrospect, maybe screaming whiteness is wicked was not a good strategy for fighting racism. Josh, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no shit. I mean, like, and that's the thing is, it's like, it was never about fighting racism. It was about pushing back against white people. It was
that's
about
exactly
getting
right.
white people getting their comeuppance.
It wasn't meant
getting
to fight
even.
racism, though, was it? Right. It was to demonize whiteness.
Yes.
Right. This is why they literally wrote books about, who is this? Is this the white fragility chick? Maybe not. Anyway, they literally wrote books about destroying whiteness. We need to eradicate whiteness. What does that mean to you, Josh? It sounds like very, very much like some South Africa killed a Boer.
Yeah, exactly. And
We need to eradicate whiteness. We need to kill the Boer. I mean, these are virtually the same sentences.
they'll explain it away as like, well, this like white people being proud of each other, which again, there's nothing wrong with that either. But like they would try to explain it. It's how, like, I've seen so many people, black people on TikTok, like belittling the genocide going on in South Africa. In light of Trump's, comments and what he did with the South African president or whatever. They're like, oh, like I don't call it a genocide because I only care about the real genocides going on. They'll say Gaza, which that's true, but then they bring up like the Congo and all this other stuff, and it's like they'll do anything to get ahead. It's about getting ahead. It's about getting even, not getting equal. That's what it's about.
That's right. Chris B, welcome to the stream today. I wonder if any normally white Democrats are feeling fatigue. Yeah, obviously. I mean, they can deny it all they want, and this is kind of what I've delved into. I dove into with some other stuff talking about race realism. Is everyone understands what it is and that it exists, but then you have people like E. Michael Jones that will deny it and say it's a social construct. But these same people like E. Michael Jones will turn around and say the Jews. It's like, is it a social construct or is it not? Is it the Jews or is it just a group of people that have no relation to each other? Right? You can't have it's a social construct and God's chosen people in the same thought process.
Right.
This is a cognitive dissonance. Everybody understands that it exists, right? But to the point, yes, everybody is feeling fatigue.
Well, and it's like you'll have black people say like, oh, there's no such thing as race. Race is a social construct, but we're better.
Yes. We was kings.
Yes. Yeah.
Very much so. We built the pyramids. This is Neil again from my interview with whatever her name was, Milkelson. How to keep disaffected young men from embracing the dissident right. I'm not a huge fan of the term dissident right. I think the one's been floating around a lot lately is the new right or the new Christian right. And I think that's probably what's going to be adopted. New Christian right or the new right is not going to be it's not conservative in nature, but it's nationalistic in nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's inherently preservationist, not necessarily isolationist. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of these young men, that they want to call dissident right or woke right or some of these other terms that they're coming up with, but that's virtually what it is. They're new Christian right. But to some of the points, vocally repudiate of the woke left. Sure. Show that the same criticisms apply to the dissident right. Well, they don't. What he's talking about, and I haven't listened to it, it really doesn't matter. What he's talking about is that this idea of an identity and what one is, right? And he's trying to say that we too need to deny race. That's virtually what he's saying here, because they like to pin the woke left as identitarians and then pin the quote unquote woke right from James Lindsay as identitarians also. And so because they are both identitarians, then they are the same.
Yeah.
Hitler drank water, Josh. Do you know that?
Yeah. Exactly. It's this push towards the center. This idea that, oh, there's radicals on both sides. Let's just be reasonable.
Yes.
Within it is the assumption that being centrist or being in the middle is reasonable.
Or is virtuous in itself.
Exactly. Right.
Where has this centrism gotten us, Josh? For the last, 200 years.
where we are today.
Yes, because it's a denial of reality.
Yes.
The same criticisms apply is to deny reality, which is what the dissident right, as he claims, or the new right is. And then provide discipleship. Yes, we need to provide discipleship, but Neil, you're the one that is denying the reality. Let's provide real, with capital R, true discipleship. And see, this is the difference. This is what they do not understand. We'll scroll these comments real quick. Have you vocally repudiated the unbiblical ideas of your woke left pastor? Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what his pastor says. What's going on? Chat.
Help.
That's
One
not
of the
working.
things that I
Button's not
do,
working.
this is
Oh, there
more
it
about
goes.
Southern Baptist polity than you'll ever want to know, but one of my main roles is to appoint people on committees who will then appoint trustees who end up shaping the institutions and providing leadership and accountability. I'll just tell you, of all the appointments that I've made, 2/3 of them are either women or they are people of color. I really do that for two reasons. One,
Yep, that's all I needed. That's all we needed. If a church is enforcing any form of DEI, it is not a church. It is a state-sponsored propaganda machine. And it needs to be shut down. It needs to be relieved of its tax exemptions. And these people need to be called to public repentance. That is on top of, I don't believe that a church has any obligation to quote unquote diversity. And in fact, I would even go as far to say as diversity is not only not beneficial, but detrimental to a church. This is the same concept as it applies to a nation, right? You want to be around like people, and you ought to be around like people because you can simply get more done because there is less division across. And this doesn't apply just for race. This applies to a lot of other things. Stephen Wolf said, replicate Shavini's deracinated state of existence. If anybody's on Twitter, this is a good account to follow. They usually got some pretty solid stuff. You stop using the fake, false, fabricated woke right. And see, this is what I was pointing out earlier. They use dissident right. These leftist types want to gatekeep the language, right? Because if they can gatekeep the language, they can control the conversation. This is a leftist tactic. This is a leftist tactic, not in that it is similar to what the left does. It quite literally is a leftist tactic. Oh, a leftist atheist slur. Yeah, there we go. Switch to dissident right. We're the right. We're winning. You stick to your Judeo-Christian, your Judeo-Bolshevik. Sins of racism, anti-Semitism, and misogyny. Young Christian men, take note, anti-Semitism and racism are not biblical sins. However, these are Judeo-Bolshevik and or Judeo-Christian sins. Anyone who claims otherwise is a demon masquerading as a pastor, priest, preacher, podcaster, or porn peddler. Pun intended. But yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about. These churches and these quote-unquote pastors are trying to go after this young male vote. Right, because this is the future. The future is the young male vote. Dante says, is this another woke stream? Definitely not. The answer is absolutely, unequivocally no. I don't know how we're still on YouTube. I don't even have that many viewers. Give me time. Hopefully I can get Rumble set up before YouTube shuts us down. Yes, not woke. This is the anti-woke. You can call us anti-woke. I'm gonna get me a flag, a black flag with some red flags inside of the black flag, and we can fly them, Josh.
We'll fly the super straight flag.
Super straight. To offer myself as a sacrifice. Jefferson, what's up, brother? They've got the churches now. They've had the churches for a long time, man. They've had the churches for a long time. And this is what we're talking about, is this call to tradition. It's a leaving of something like the Episcopal Church and the Methodist Church and the Presbyterian churches, or at least the PCA, and some of these like older churches that have kind of given into some of the women pastors, this LGBT, DEI, ABCDEFG stuff, right? These churches that have been infiltrated, right? This is what the left does. This is what communists and Jews do. They infiltrate. They infiltrate institutions. They infiltrate churches. Right. This is what dispensationalism is. Dispensationalism is an infiltration by Jews, by Darby, to usurp the churches, and that's what they've done. And so now it is incumbent upon the young men to search out that tradition, look for truth, and retake the churches. There's a kind of a question that's kind of tossed out there that I like to toss out there, really, I guess is what I'm saying, is should we retake the institutions or build a parallel, Josh?
That's a good question. When it comes to the churches, that's a good one, dude. I don't really know because here's the thing: certain institutions aren't going away, like the judicial system, like the Department of Defense. Like these things, you can't build a parallel to that. That needs to be infiltrated. You could potentially build a parallel Hollywood. You could potentially, start your own church locally, and it would be like, all right, yeah, we're Presbyterians, but like we're true Presbyterians. And then of course the Presbyterian church, if they're like a liberal version, they're going to be like, no, they're not. But then people are going to try it out and they're going to be like, you know what? They're not peddling like gay stuff that's clearly anti-Christ. Maybe there is something to this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's case by case, but with the churches, because you and I, we're not Catholic, we're not Orthodox. If you're a Catholic and an Orthodox, you're not going to build a parallel institution because
Correct.
They are institutional churches. The very institution is the church. But someone in our case, like Protestants, they potentially could.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to be made, is that some of the institutions are reclaimable and some are not. And,
Right.
and I think that's a good place to play. I think the war can be fought on almost all fronts. What are we laughing at?
The Peterson versus the Twink.
This is that's your boy, Trent Horn.
That's the Trent. Oh yeah, you're right. It's not my boy.
That's your boy.
Nah, it's not.
That's your boy.
What are you talking about?
You know who he's the one that his wife kind of
No. I know who Trent Horn is. Trent Horn is. I wasn't sure what you meant by my boy. I was like, I'm not a Trent Horn fan over here.
While we're here, this is this is exactly what we're talking about. This is Aaron McIntyre talking about rescuing the Southern Baptist Convention. He's live with William Wolf. Let's check this out for 2 or 3 seconds. See what they got going on.
Religious.
If you don't know, Aaron McIntyre's got, he's got some very solid stuff. Again, follow him on Twitter if you are on there.
In the United States, making it one of the most influential organizations, at least in the religious life.
That guy
of
who
the
was
country.
in our chat is in this guy's chat.
Parishioners are usually some of the most based people. Its members are some of the
Jim?
most based
Yeah.
What's
people
up, Jim?
in the country, but ultimately the leadership often strays. And unfortunately, just like every different religious organization in the United States right now, the Southern Baptist Convention is receiving a lot of influence from outside actors who aren't really interested in Christianity. Talking to me today about that is the executive director over at the Center for Baptist Leadership, William Wolf. Thank you for coming on, man.
It's a joy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'll go ahead and say it. Long time listener, first time caller. Good to be with you today.
Well, it's fantastic to talk to you. And I think this is very
I guess the preface is William Wolf does a lot of work for the Southern Baptist Convention. The Southern Baptist Convention, maybe give anybody a heads up that's not familiar with it, is, how do I say this? They're not completely gone, but it's loose, boys.
very important because this is, of course, I've been in Southern Baptist churches since I was very young, always been an average layperson. Knowing what's going on, what their dollars are actually going to is very bad. And I know there's a meeting coming up in Dallas where you're hoping to make a big splash. So we're going to get deep into the details here in just a minute. But before we do, let's hear from today's sponsor.
This Memorial Day, a story about grit, redemption, and good old-fashioned family values hits the big screen and
Anyway, but yeah, they're basically going to talk about the same thing that we're talking about today. So here's the question: is what else is there to talk about, Josh? I think this is the main topic that should be discussed, and I think we've already admitted the answer, but we're going to dive into a little bit more.
All right, let's do it, babe.
I wanted to pull up the Knowles video from earlier today. I didn't timestamp it, but this isn't my subscription. That's why it's not pulling up. He was talking about it too. What is? guys, I watch all kind of stuff, so it might be pretty all over the place.
In reality. And when we talk about what Scott Pelley
20.
hate God's representatives on earth, and they hate orderly society, which is good and conducive to our natural happiness, as the church helps to lead us toward our supernatural happiness. But that's what they're after, okay? And I think our political debates are becoming more obviously religious. It's not that they're becoming more religious, because human conflict is always ultimately theological, but they're becoming more obviously religious. Joe Rogan is speaking about religion, and the new atheism is passé and deader than disco. And we're just in a more religious moment. The decline of Christianity has leveled off. It's stopped. Decades-long decline has stopped. And so as that happens, expect the attacks from the left to be a little less partisan. Expect the debates to be a little less, R versus D, though R is one. The triple trends are all in our direction. Expect these debates to become more religious, which ultimately is what they always have been. Now, speaking of morality and child abuse, there's a new study out about the abortion drug. The abortion drug is not just one way that abortions take.
Yeah, that's basically all I want to say was make that point. It's going to be less, and this kind of lends to my idea that we talked about really early on in our podcast, is where does the far right go? Did they go to the left? Did they retake the right? Where do they go? Where do these nationalistic people go? And I don't know what that answer is, but I think Michael Knowles kind of lends to the idea here that it might not be left and right here in the near future. It might be more specifically religious that isn't defined by left and right. And I think he is largely correct in that.
Yeah, I think that I get what you're
mean, that
getting at,
was a
which I
very
think
short
is
snippet.
beneficial to articulate like the Christian, therefore the Christian stance on immigration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is CJ from Contra Mordor. They have a podcast called Contra Mundum. If you can check that out, check it out also. I actually have an answer to this. What's the question? Well, the question is, let me zoom in so you boys can read it. The question is, how is Dave Green, did my voice just crack? How is Dave Green's plea to make Christianity appeal to disillusioned young men any different from seeker-sensitive churches trying to draw in progressive? Christianity is about Christ and the truth, not adapting a narrative to attract any group. I agree with that, but the question is from, you can't see the name, from, this is No Soup for Knowles.
No, it's clearly not the same thing. The point
Well,
is,
let's see what he says. Give me
okay.
43 seconds.
Christians are letting themselves get beaten out by secular racialists and by pagans and by tech cult people, that you see in people like Richard Hanania. And I think this is we're going to look back at this time and go why couldn't we put away the myths of the 20th century faster? Because we spent so much time asking ourselves how Christianity could help the myths of the 20th century live for just a decade longer that we forgot asking ourselves how Christianity could actually, become meaningful to young men as they're experiencing the post-Enlightenment world. And that's my...
Go ahead, Josh.
basically, what I was gonna say is so how is Dave Green's plea to make Christianity appeal to disillusioned young men any different from seeker-sensitive Christians trying to draw in progressives? Because what these seeker-sensitives are doing is they are contradicting Scripture. They are bending Scripture to appeal to progressives. They are trying to fit the church to woke liberals instead of trying to save the woke liberals with the truth of the church. Now, I didn't hear anything in there that implied he was doing anything other than emphasizing things that are true within the church that have been pushed aside by modern sentiment.
Yes.
Men are women, and it's not simply that men are men and women are women biologically, but also socially, that it's not something that you can change. It is rooted in biology, but there are social constructs that really aren't constructs, that they derive from those things. Masculinity, femininity. These are things that are attributed to male and females. There are masculine jobs, there are feminine jobs. There are masculine roles, there are feminine roles. And focusing on those things to appeal to disillusioned young men, that's not the same thing as straight up lying about what Jesus said or lying about what the church and what Christianity is about to appeal to. It's not about changing. What the woke is doing is they're changing the church to fit what people already believe.
Right. This is a mega church. This is what you lights and
right. What he's trying to do is focus on what modern young men intuitively know, to say that this is the path. Say, hey, come here because you're on the right path, but you're not quite there yet. That's what I got from it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's a turn away from this mega church idea. Not mega church necessarily, but what comes with it is this lights, camera, action style of preaching.
Right.
We want tradition. We just want the meat. We don't want all this fancy flesh that comes with it. Terrell said, to what extent should the allocation of political voting rights be resurrected to assign a single collective vote per household as opposed to individual voting rights considering incompetent voters? To what extent should the allocation of voting rights be resurrected or restructured to assign a single collective vote? Yeah, but I agree with the single vote per household, if that's what you're asking. I think at the end of the day, it should boil down to a single vote per household, married, landowning Americans specifically. Probably gonna put an age limit on that of 35 or whatever the thing you're voting for is at that time, which would exclude me specifically from voting. So I'm fine with that. Josh, you fine with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with
Good.
that.
Good deal. Good deal. Too busy being not warriors. Well, that's exactly right. They're afraid to say what needs to be said, and what needs to be said is the truth. They're afraid to say what is true, and so they sugarcoat it. And by sugarcoat it, they lie to themselves and they lie to everyone. And everybody's tired of being lied to. We just want the truth. Josh asked me for advice the other day, and I didn't want to give him my actual answer because it was going to hurt his feelings, but I gave it to him anyway. The spiritual and metaphysical is directly connected to the physical. They pretend they are separate. Yes. Well, yeah, by definition, they are. The metaphysical is connected to the physical. In fact, it controls it. Maybe not controls. It binds it in a way. Make sure you guys read my comments after you've moved on to the 4th and 5th. I'm sorry we're live streaming like we're supposed to today, Ninja.
We're never enough with this guy. Never enough with Ninja.
Hey, save your comments, and I'll post a Zoom call link here in about, 15, 20 minutes. But this is CJ Engel kind of responded to that. He said, I actually have an answer to this. The seeker-sensitive movement denied natural law, natural order, and natural relations, and the idea of grace perfecting nature. What this basically boils down to is they lie. That is what it boils down to. That is what it boils down to. They lie because the truth is in association with nature or with, reality. And so that's what happens. It builds chaos, and it builds blurs lines that ought not be blurred. I don't know specifically with gender, because that's what we're talking about today. It creates chaos. Natural relations, talking about love one another. How ought I love my wife is not the same way I ought to love my son, and in the same way I ought not love someone across the rest of the world. Right, Josh? If you had a kid, would you be offended if I didn't love your kid the same way I love mine?
Absolutely not.
What's so hard about that, dude?
No, it makes it. It's baby brain, and it's one of these things that, to Ninja, to your credit, I almost get where the Catholics and Eastern Orthodox,
I do.
or specifically
Yeah.
the Catholics, were like, we should not have given the Bible to the common folk. I almost get it. I don't agree with it, but I almost get it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Where like the people, they're too stupid to like, it's like when you read, like Jesus says, I didn't come to bring peace, but to bring a sword. And they say, Jesus is advocating violence. It's like, you're too stupid to speak to me, to be allowed to talk.
Yes.
There should be like, you shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the internet, a camera, or a microphone. And that's what we've got going on now. You know, people like you said, people that think we need to treat a person 1,000 miles away on the other side of the planet the exact same way as you treat your wife, your son, your father, your mother, your brother, your
So
sister.
much so that they should move in next door to you.
Yes. No. Zeb, don't be cruel here. They have to sleep in your bed and you get to sleep
Basically.
somewhere else.
I mean, we give them the hotel rooms.
yeah.
We kick people out of hotel rooms that were supposed to be living in them to give them to immigrants, right? Not only are they supposed to be the same, but greater than.
Right. yeah.
The appeal to disillusioned young men can account for all of these things. This is exactly right. Stop lying to us. This is the core. This is it. Don't lie to us. Don't say some insane thing and then expect me to believe it. It's just we know it not to be true, and they've gotten away for it for too long. Let's see. The appeal to young men is a recognition of reality. Welcome to the show. Peter Kinwall, he's got a decent show too if you want to check him out. Or it's just a woman moment. He's talking about No Soup for Knowles. Yeah, I mean, she applies a dialectic that's not necessarily there. She extracts something from the conversation that's not there, but the point is made all the same. Chat, where we at? Anthony Bompkins, what is up, brother? Never enough because I know you can do better. They want people to have it and read it, but people run with it absent the greater context and call it clear interpretation. He's talking about the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Anthony says the Discord's not working.
Oh, Discord link's not working? I'll have to take a look at it later. Josh, you got on, didn't you?
I got on, yeah.
I'll have to play with it here in a little bit.
Oh. Did it get banned? It's not showing up on my thing anymore.
Is it?
No. What the heck?
I don't know. I'll have to play with it and see what's up with the Discord then. Malarkey said it worked for him. I'll see.
check it again, Malarkey, because I just checked and like the whole group doesn't even exist for me anymore.
It says link invalid. All right. Well, I'll figure that one out then. I'll figure it out and we'll move on from there. Probably has a number of allowed invites. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I granted permission to who I needed to grant permission to. I don't know hardly anything about Discord. I might do some Googling tonight and figure it out. It was kind of a run on the fly. Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch is a perfect example of needing a spiritual father. Yeah.
Okay, now it's back. I don't
Malarkey
know.
said it's gone now. I'll figure out Discord this evening, boys. Sorry about that. Ninja. Okay, so here's what it takes. I'm not denying that it takes the Holy Spirit to be able to interpret Scripture, right? But I would also go as far to say as you should, if you're dumb, you should look to someone that is smarter than you for guidance. Is this controversial?
No, not at all.
Right. Would I look to Thomas Aquinas when it comes to Scripture? I should.
Sure.
Right. I believe he is probably smarter than me. Same with somebody like Corey J. Mahler. Now there comes a place for discernment on top of that, but not everybody is gifted with the fruit of the discernment, the fruit of the spirit of discernment, right? And so in the same vein, you should be able to. And I agree that there is a issue in the Protestant church that is not taking place, and I would apply that also to tradition, right? And the building of something that is beautiful necessarily. But again, the problem is you start to worship those things, and then you end up with a pope or someone that doesn't read the Bible at all. So
it's a good question by Ninja. What happens when your spirit conflicts with my spirit? Who do we appeal to? Again, this is actually something I've thought about recently, because I was listening to
appeal to Sargent New Church
at my job. Glenn Beck was on the radio, and he is, of course, he's like, man, we really need to turn to Christ during these times where the poor Jewish people are being attacked mercilessly by Hamas. It's like, how could he be so far lost? And again, at the end of the day, I do think there are some people that, like, there's a difference between feeling good when you pray and being in your spirit, if that makes sense. And that's the thing, is it's like, if I come to you and say, look, here's a good heuristic. If someone is consistently saying to other people, God told me to tell this to you, that's kind of a red flag.
Yes.
Because God very seldom, and maybe I'm wrong, strike me down, God, if I'm wrong, but I think God seldom reveals your problems to other people. In the sense, like if you're struggling with something and you come to God about it, God might send someone to help you, but he is not going to send someone to tell you what to believe. Like,
yes,
helping and instructing are two different things.
I would say that is taking the Lord's name in vain.
I would too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're on board with that. Anya, welcome to the stream. The core issue is likely not intelligence. Delusion is born from intelligence. Delusion is born from intelligence. The real issue is likely netany. I had to Google netany. Thank you for that. That's a new word. It means something to the effect of adolescence characteristics that stay with people into adulthood. I guess it loosely means that they don't have. Let's see. Let me read it. So we're good. Refers to the retention of juvenile characteristics into adulthood. Can be seen in various species, including humans, where individuals may retain some features or behaviors associated with youth. Simple terms, it means an organism reaching sexual maturity while still retaining features of its juvenile stage.
I see what she is getting at.
He, she, Anya. I was assuming she. Okay. Sparky said the Pope is a joke. Yes.
Glenn Beck is a Zionist. I mean, clearly, but the thing is I do believe Glenn Beck, I don't think he's bought and paid for by Israel. I think he's one of these like boomers that he has been just so deceptive that he worships Israel. You know what I mean? I can't say where he is in his walk with God. I can't come on here and say it's disingenuous, but or deluded, but that is the feeling that I get from a outside perspective.
Let me read this real quick. I need to make these things a little bit bigger. They're hard to read. Dogs lose capacity to solve problems independently to wolves. Validation from master, i.e. human host, supersedes reality. Nature is a social construct. Well, nature isn't a social construct. 1, 2, they only lose the capacity when the reliance is on the human, right? And so I did a interview with a dog trainer actually like two weeks ago on Touch Grass. And so he trains dogs. And I would say, I mean, I don't know specifically, but I would say the dogs that he trains are extremely intelligent. And they're not intelligent because he trains them. They're intelligent because they're bred to be intelligent. This is a difference. You can't train intelligence. Intelligence is genetic. And so the labs, he does hunting dogs. You can check it out. It's Noah Moody. He trains these dogs, and you essentially buy bred dogs. And just like the horse race at Kentucky Derby, where all of those horses descended from a single horse. They're direct descendants from a single horse. The same way it is in the dog community. They're all descended from Big Black Dude. That's a dog, a champion dog. They're all descendants of the same dog. Why? Because those genes are highly valuable. Highly valuable because they're intelligent. Nature is not a social construct just by
Yes.
this nature of the genes being bred into them.
And so what's happening here is the problem solving that the dogs appear to lose because they're being trained. That what you're describing is atrophy. In the same way, a mouse or mice, they use their nose to seek out food, but a mouse in a lab-grown environment that is constantly being fed, their nose might atrophy because they are not using it in the pursuit of food. They're not using it as actively as they normally would. In the same way, if like you, I'm kind of getting into the physical now, but like if you roll around in a wheelchair, despite the fact you have working legs, eventually your legs will no longer work. They have atrophied. And it's the same way with characteristics. You have instincts. Instincts are genetic. Instincts come from intelligence, which is all genetic. And if you don't actively use those things, they may appear not to be there.
This is something I might look into because I'm really interested in the genetics, especially with dogs and humans. I think there's a high correlation between the two. Well, really across the board with all species. It's just easier with dogs because we've been playing with them so long between breeding. It says Anya says, I mean the context of pathology, i.e., the means of provision becomes human validation and not hunting. Wolves outperform dogs in intelligence studies. This is something I might actually look into because I haven't actually compared necessarily the intelligence of dogs between dogs and wolves. I know the intelligence between a dog that is bred for hunting and running field trials as compared to a dog that is bred purely for aesthetics and something like dog shows is completely different, right? So if you don't breed specifically for intelligence and you breed specifically for aesthetics, you're going to get a dumb, docile dog. Whereas when you breed for hunting, the dog might be a little bit more aggressive because you're actually you're breeding for that thing, right, Josh? And so I'm gonna look into the wolf thing. Another curious.
I'm very confused by Anya's stance because like all the examples that they're giving kind of prove the point that nature is real.
Another curious data point is comparing aggression. Feral dogs have a higher rates of aggression to wolves. Bonobos have 3 times the aggression to chimpanzees. A submission is not the same as true net loss aggression. I would agree with that. I don't equate submission as a loss of aggression. I think there's a intelligence aspect that we talked about this. Was it yesterday or was it last week? We talked about just because someone is not aggressive doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be, right? This is the idea of meekness, where you have a sword but you are willing to sheath it. It's a impulse control, not necessarily a loss of aggression. It's not that you're weak, it is that you have control over that aggression. And I think this is the case that Anya is trying to make here. Inward? Glenn Beck, he made his money from student loans. He's almost an Israeli. He's a Mormon. I think he is a Mormon.
Oh, is he Mormon?
I think he
okay,
is.
well
I
then
think he
there
is
you go.
Mormon.
He's I kind of want to know that for certain.
I'm pretty sure he is Mormon. He might not be a Mormon now, but I think he was born Mormon, if that makes sense. Dude, I watched a Mormon video today.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Oh, dude, we need to dive into the Mormons one day.
How deeply?
It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to get deep into the Mormon stuff real quick.
According to Google's AI, it says yes, Glenn Beck is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he is a converted member.
You know the Mormons changed their name.
No, they changed it to
Church of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, I knew
because they had those big scandals, and so they officially changed their name to try to get away from it.
What was their name before? I've only known them as a Church of Latter-day Saints.
I don't
know.
Or
LDS Church.
Something. Not that. Getting back on to the masculinity thing, this kind of that we've been driving. Logan Hall, nice Twitter account. Go follow him too. Total Paradigm Shift, we're going to win. So he posted a tweet not too long ago. It said, so apparently the State Department has a Substack and they are absolutely cooking. The global liberal project is not enabling democracy, rather it is trampling democracy and Western heritage along with it in the name of a decadent governing class afraid of its own people. These are sitting representatives. I know Josh is a doomer, but and words don't really mean that much. But I think in this case, it does carry weight when you have sitting members retweeting or quote tweeting from their government account these types of tweets. It says the West has spent the last 30 years governed by people who were ashamed of their past and hate Western civilization. President Trump is embracing our heritage, which built the greatest nation on the face of the earth. I mean, this is a big word right here. This word's going to carry a lot of weight moving forward. So keep an eye out for it. The West's liberal ruling class disdains its own culture, hates its heritage, and has contempt for its people. They're ravaging Europe, mass migration of unassimilated foreigners, political persecution, desecrating our own cultural inheritance.
That one's better than the last one.
Dems want the same thing here. This is a sitting congressman. He's got some. He's pretty solid, anyway. But I mean, this is what the young men are after, right? We want a call to tradition, a call to heritage. Don't lie to us anymore. Let's take a look at these. Many people are saying it. Oh, here he goes. Yep, the word heritage is going to be a big comeback. Come back in a big way. Yeah, I agree with him 100%. It's going to carry a lot of weight. Heritage Americans, Native Americans, these things are going to be reclaimed. American itself is going to be reclaimed. Chris B says, are Mormons a race or religion? I would say Mormons are both. I would say they are a nation in themselves. I wouldn't necessarily call them a race, but I would call them a nation. That's fair. They're isolated. They're a nation in the same way that Ireland is a nation, right? The same way that Japan is a nation, right? These are isolated peoples, same way the Amish are a nation. These are isolated peoples that have their own distinct genetics, their own distinct culture, their own distinct religions. They are distinct from everyone else. I mean, I would even go as far to say as they are not American. So there's that hot take. Mormons aren't American. Glenn Beck, get out of here. You're going back wherever back is. You're going there. Let's see. Let's scroll Twitter real quick. What we got? Homath. Dude, he's been popping off lately. You know who Homath is?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh boy. He does some pretty good stuff.
I'm familiar with the term homath or girl math.
That's him. Have you seen this guy? I'm sure you've seen this guy.
Yeah. Well, you showed me a video where he was saying that women belong in the priesthood.
What's he saying?
Groypers are
Really awesome to see thousands of people discover.
He's running for governor of California. I think he's in like third place in the polling. Some young, yeah. He's a Groyper, dude. He's full on Groyper.
Play.
For the first time today. And you know what? She's a cradle Catholic, and she's the one that brought me to the church. So I'm eternally grateful to her for that.
Oh,
and
okay.
Not only that, but
I've seen this
I'm
guy
a German
before.
ethnic,
I just didn't
and
recognize
I grew up with a lot of shame.
Does he don't have a suit on?
And guilt for what
Yeah,
Nazis
exactly.
did in the past, and she's the one that helped me work through a lot of that because she thought being a Nazi was cool, and that what the Germans did in World War II was awesome, and it.
I will
He
say
said he's running for governor,
I think so.
and he's in
running for?
third place.
Is it governor? He's running for something in California, which is like
Thousands of people.
That when he put it
what is
when
this?
I see him like that, that's what.
I mean, he says the right stuff. It's a little cringe sometimes, though. Fuentes endorsed this guy for governor. I think he is running for governor.
Jaden McNeil seething.
All right, let's see. I want to jump into. I had something else lined up. The Project Veritas thing. Chat, how we doing?
Yeah.
Kyle Lang, basically a groper who everyone saw his girlfriend yesterday and ragging on him because she's a torta. That's something that, like, a significant portion of quote unquote white nationalists have non-white girlfriends or wives, which is
That's a problem.
it's like a thing.
No, I know.
Like I don't
But
get it.
here's the problem is, again, they're thinking with their hearts, not their heads. And you do find like I can totally see that guy. What was his name?
Kyle Lang.
Kyle Lang.
That doesn't even sound white or Jewish.
Him basically, like, you do get uber conservative, like, Hispanic girls. And
Yes.
like, so I totally get the value, like someone, like you get like a sexy,
Langford. That's a
you
little
get-
bit more white.
you get like a
Or
sexy Latina who is like so like the skin tone is like barely off white and her hair's like a little bit more brown than black, and she's uber conservative Christian. That kind of gets the ball past the goalie. You know what I mean? A lot of times. The truth is like blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls, they're just hoes these days for the most part, you know?
All right, I got a couple more things I want to jump in on. This first one is going to be the vice chair of the DNC, or used to be. I think he was actually kicked out because of a voting technicality. And then we're going to dive into... I want to touch on Patriot Front. I want to get your thoughts on those guys. I might actually pull up a clip from maybe a year or so ago where he was on Patrick Bet-David. He being Thomas Rousseau, I think his name is. Before that, let's see. Anya, again, welcome to the stream. Thank you for sticking around. Polygyny is common with great apes and most similar sexual dimorphic mammals. True pair bonding is rare in nature, i.e. wolves. I wouldn't call it rare.
wolves.
I wouldn't call it rare. Is pair bonding in wolves? Or are you saying it's not in wolves? Do wolves pair bond, Josh? I know Canadian geese do.
I've heard that they pair bond. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's something you do find more common in
Anya sounds
in
like she worked at a
certain
zoo.
birds. I was gonna say, like, this Anya person knows a lot about like animal biology and
zooey.
behavior.
Zoologist. That's the one. But yeah, Anya, I did a interview with John Ward, Touch Grass. John Ward, go to my channel. You would like that one. He dove into the great apes, bonobos.
That was a good video.
Some other stuff. We talked about the nature of nations, if you will. You might actually like that one. You just got to get past like the first, 10 minutes or so. We talked about independent filmmaking. But after that, we dove into some pretty deep stuff. So check that one out if you wouldn't mind. Let me know what you think. I really wonder if people are tarnishing emotion with such words as emotional thinking. I suspect it's typically more hyper egocentric thinking. On top of that, I would say emotional intelligence. I think emotional intelligence is bullshit. Just to kind of toss that one out there. I think you are exactly correct. And I think it's a coping mechanism for people that are retarded. It's a coping mechanism for midwits with Dunning-Kruger.
That's a good point. I was gonna say emotional acuteness or sensitivity. Because if we're talking about emotional intelligence as it relates to women, that is more like, because intelligence implies rationality and emotional. So it's kind of a oxymoron, emotional intelligence.
Yes.
It's more like when we say women are emotionally intelligent, we mean they're more emotionally aware. They're more, what did we say? Empathetic or sympathetic? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I get them mixed up all
but
the time.
basically, yeah, they care more.
I got something for you here. Who asked the question? Chris B said, "Are Spaniards white?" I'm gonna let this black gentleman answer that for you.
I didn't know people from Spain thought they were white. I didn't know that. I went over there. They're like, "Yeah, us white people." I was like, "Us? You speak Spanish? In America, you're Mexican." So that's how that works. That was so racist. All right, listen.
That's pretty funny.
I think
dude.
Spaniards are white.
Yeah, they are white. I mean, that was a bit he was doing. I think
yeah.
Spaniards are, by definition white. But I think he does. So I'd spent some time in Spain. I did like 6 months in Spain. I did like 6 months in Spain. They are not American. I can guarantee you that. When you go to Spain, they have this thing called siesta, the greatest thing in the world. We didn't get to do siesta, but siesta is a nap, like a 4-hour nap every day. Like these people, they wake up in the morning, they go to work at like 8, they work till lunch, 12 or 1, and then they just take a nap in the middle of the day till like 5 or 6, and then they work from like 5 or 6 until 8 or 9 that night. They take another nap or whatever they do, and then everybody comes out. I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about grandma. I'm talking about the babies. Everybody comes out at night and they just party. And this is every night. This isn't a weekend thing. This is every single day.
At like
they
9,
work
10
like
o'clock.
4 to 6 hours a day. They take a 4-hour nap in the middle of the day and then they party at night. Like that's what they do. Like we had curfew at 12. We would be coming in from doing whatever we were doing, and they would be coming out. I'm talking about like straight up like grandmas going out to the clubs or whatever.
Were they doing that
like
when
12
they
at night.
conquered South America? Were they see?
I don't know, man. They were doing something.
Makes you wonder what the Aztecs were doing.
But the question is, are Spaniards white? I think the answer is, well, I know the answer is yes. The second answer is not all whites are the same.
Looking at you,
Sparky
Irish.
says, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. And how the song goes? Yellow Mouth, what's up? I just got here, but is Zeb saying his future is young men? Let the reader understand.
I knew that comment was coming. Eventually.
What did it say?
On the
title?
The title was like, it was like, how do we get young men in our homes or something? No, I'm kidding. It was I forget,
You
but
set
it was
me up for that one?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I knew. I'm actually surprised Ninja is the one that didn't do it. I was like,
Yeah.
it was like, how do we do something with young men? Is there pause?
Anya said, pair bonding is extremely strict with wolves. Birds kind of, sort of, but there is a lot of cheating behavior with birds. Wolves are very strict about infidelity. I might have to dive into the wolf thing, dude. They because I am, like I said, I am interested in the dog aspect of specifically breeding. Emotional intelligence is abbreviated EQ. It should be EI. That's how you know it's cope from dumb people. Right. It is it's cope from dumb people because emotional intelligence would be, EQ would be the emotional quotient, right? So IQ is intelligent quotient. They EQ, they abbreviate it EQ, but then they say emotional intelligence. But I guess the EQ would be for quotient. But yeah, a crying child isn't, but yeah, you're right. It is cope, regardless. Yeah, a crying child isn't exhibiting greater emotion. A stoic who accepts negative emotion arguably can experience greater emotional depth than a non-stoic. Right. EQ is cope. I mean, emotional intelligence is cope. It typically comes from these people. I specifically remember it might have been a Jubilee video where they were ranking themselves on intelligence, and one was like a white dude in the Marine Corps, and they ranked him last, and they ended up being first. It's like these people just cope, man. That's all midwits do. What are we lolling at?
Probably the young boys thing. How do we get young men?
Baby
in our
Una,
house?
what's up? Any country in Europe is white originally? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Children of Japheth. If we're biblical. If we're not, it still stands. Packing my bags to Spain. Dude, Spain is nice. Definitely a vacation spot. I was in Rota for a while. And which is kind of is like a beachy area. And then there's like the second oldest cathedral in Europe is in Cadiz, and it's like a 20-minute ferry ride from where I was. Dude, it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was crazy. Cadiz, Cadiz. Cadiz, and it's on like a peninsula. It's like its own island. It was legit. Did the Moors mix their genetics when they ruled Spain and Portugal? Yes.
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but like people act like the Moors looked like Shaquille O'Neal or something like that. Like they look more like Egyptians. Not quite, but you know what I mean? Like they were Northern Africans, and Northern Africans aren't sub-Saharan Africans.
Well, it kind of holds the same concept that I apply. You know, I got an Indian friend that married a white woman, and so their children are half Indian, half white. If his children have children with a white spouse, then how do you deny their children, right? And so this is the same concept with the Moors in Spain. On the clip says the future is young men. Yeah. Thumbnail. Aztecs were digging people's hearts out for sacrifices, like the song says they had it coming. Yeah, dude. And this is another thing. People want to take and apply like Nordic paganism and equate it to sub-Saharan African paganism and Aztecian South American paganism. Like, these aren't the same things. Like, the Nords weren't doing Aztec baby human sacrifices. They weren't tossing babies inside of boiling bulls.
Right. Just because, these people worshipped more than one god, therefore they're all the same. They all did the same shit.
I'm going to defend the pagans here. Some of them. I guess specific pagans, if we're getting at it. But they're wrong, but they're not the same. And this is the thing. There are differences even in people that are wrong or cultures that are wrong. And to equate them would be retarded. It would be very EQ of you.
I think I said this before on the show, but I mean, I bring up Dr. Umar a lot, but I love how he goes, he's one of these guys that says like white people stole everything from black people. And he goes, they don't even have their own superheroes. Aquaman was based off of the Egyptian ocean god Wangingo. Do even black people know who the African water god is? Like it can't even be Poseidon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, I was watching a video yesterday. It was a video of Marines kind of sitting around, you know, like Marines do. We just sit around, and they were videoing. It was like a mix. It was a couple of Mexicans, a couple of black guys, a couple of white guys, and dude holding the video camera, Panda. Each one of them said, "Can you swim? Can you swim? Can you swim?" Josh, which ones do you think couldn't swim?
The black ones.
Wild guess out here.
The black ones,
without exception. But that was across the board. I think I maybe ran into like one black dude that could swim in the Marine Corps. And then I met a lot of people. I call them dark green Marines.
Yellow
Baby Uno says, off topic, how do we build the pyramids, or how do we not know?
So I assume you think they were built by the Nephilim, right?
I mean, I don't really have a hard stance on that, loosely, but even if they were built by Nephilim, I think they were too big to be just like
the Nephilim couldn't pick them up even.
Yeah, I mean, do you know how big they are?
Those stones.
Yeah, they're retarded. They're retarded big. They're huge. They're unliftable. If I had to go out on a limb, I would say it would be some type of frequency.
I've heard this, and that's I've heard many theories. I've heard kites, which I find that hard to believe, but
kites,
that they used big kites.
That's dumb.
To lift the rocks.
That's dumb.
Like
they're
almost
too big,
almost like blimps.
Yeah. How much does the average block weigh? How much?
I've seen that they use like flooding to do it.
Why can't I spell pyramid?
But they used basically like sound-based
2.5 tons. That's what? 245. That's 5,000 pounds. Ain't no Nephilim lifting 5,000 pounds of a block.
Well, why not? I mean, how do you know? Okay, so maybe
how big would someone have to be to live? Okay, so
let's say we had a Nephilim that's 9 feet tall. We shrank him down to your size. he would probably still have more strength than a person his size. You know,
Let's
maybe
just
they were
take the
stronger.
strongest man, Eddie Hall or Halfdoor. These dudes are deadlifting 1,000 pounds and max strength, right? And these dudes, Halfdoor is like 6'9". Okay, let's add 4 more feet to him. Let's make him 13 feet. That'll be 11. Let's add 6 more feet to him. Let's double his size. They would probably quadruple his output or something close to that. Triple to quadruple his output. And they might get close, but I mean, that's deadlifting the thing. That's not actually moving it. That's a lot of weight, dude. And that's the average, not the big ones.
What if you,
said,
what
guys
if
are
you
funny.
could look back in time and you're like, I want to see how they built the pyramids, and it was just a bunch of people lifting
Just
them.
a bunch of just yoked dudes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yoked dudes picking up 5,000 pound
They
blocks.
got like 20 half Thors to lift them up, and then that was like they lifted 1 boulder a day, and then like per group.
Yeah.
And then they went and they got some hoes, some concubines. They got their feet rubbed and stuff. And then the next day they had 1 more block. And it
That's
was
what
like,
we need to do.
You
We
get
need to
like
take,
50 of those groups, you know?
We need to take the next World's Strongest Men and just have a group competition, split them up into 2 groups. Whoever can pick up and move the largest rock into a pyramid formation wins. And then we'll know if the Egyptian had any chance at picking it up. Where are we at? Oh boy. I don't want to go too far back. Yellow Moss says Japan is pagan, Africa is pagan. That's why Japanese Africans have the exact same technology. Yeah, that's exactly right. They're the exact same. Japan is sub-Saharan Africa. Everybody knows that. We all come from one father and mother, Adam and Eve. I would even go as far to say as we all come from one father, which is Noah. But Josh doesn't believe in a global flood because he's an idiot. Josh,
I do believe in a global flood, no, but I believe we came from Noah.
do you? Then what's the point in not believing the global flood?
Well, maybe not every single person.
What?
Not the Indians, you know, but probably everyone from the Middle East. Probably not the Europeans.
Do you really you don't believe that we all came from the 3 sons of Noah?
I don't know.
Okay, that's a valid answer. That's better than no.
Yeah, there's plenty of really intelligent Christians that don't believe that to be literally true, and I think if it were the case, if God came down and said, no, it's not literally everybody, it was would that invalidate it for me? No.
Okay.
But I don't know.
It's okay.
I
It's
don't
okay
know.
to not know. I mean, there are theories that many ancient deities like Shiva were basically aliens, and it helps that many religions have a great flood style story, but who knows? Yeah, the aliens I would chalk up to Nephilim, like a Genesis 6 and follow on from the sons of Anakim to, I don't know, even Goliath himself, right? A lot of people that want to deny Nephilim will then claim that Goliath was a giant. It's like, was Goliath 9'9", or was he just some 6-foot dude? And the answer has to be he was a giant because of the nature of measurements back then, right? So you had and this is another thing that I don't see pushed that much is, and I've gotten off the Nephilim train a lot lately. Not gotten off, but I had to stop because it was consuming me. This idea that Goliath was whatever cubits tall, right? And so you have a cubit and then you have a royal cubit, and this is how they use measurements. The royal cubit would have come from something like Nephilim or the angels or the aliens, because they are larger, taller, right? It's a different measurement itself, right? The cubit is from the elbow to the tip of the finger. That's a measurement. So if you have a cubit from here and then you go a royal cubit and it's 33% larger, what does that tell you, Josh? I mean, to me that just seems self-explanatory, but people are denial because, well, specifically it would upend something like Darwinian evolution.
What are you looking at me for?
You're the evolutionist in here. Joe Rogan will eventually figure this out. I don't know. He's been going at it pretty hard. I think he actually will. We talked about Joe Rogan's kind of hitting the church religion Christianity lately.
Well,
maybe he actually does come to a conclusion.
Do you
here.
think that the pyramid is the Tower of Babel?
No.
My
I've never
memory's
heard
not
that
fresh
theory.
because wasn't the Tower of Babel destroyed or it was unfinished?
It was both. I think.
Okay.
Well, I don't think it was actually
can't
destroyed, but it wasn't in. It would have been in Iraq. Babel and Babylon. Babel was in Babylon.
Okay.
They,
All right.
They virtually existed at the same time. There's some people that say they didn't, but they would have been close together.
Because I
anyway.
do not because a lot of the like biblical geography I think is really misunderstood. Like when people try and determine where the Garden of Eden is or was, well, shouldn't there be a cherubim there? Well, actually, I think the Garden of Eden is actually under the Mediterranean, right now, or the Red Sea. It's where the four rivers, the Tigris, Euphrates. What are the other two?
The Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says they meet at the headwaters of these four rivers.
Yes.
So people equate.
Well, after that was pre-flood. So after the flood, the theoretically the argument is that the rivers changed. And so
Yes.
I've actually heard the theory that it is at the North Pole, and there's the Black Rock. Have you ever heard of the Black Rock theory at the North Pole?
No, but I love it.
Okay, so there's
Hit me.
four rivers that meet at the North Pole essentially, and the North Pole on our maps isn't accurate. And I guess the theory is that Garden of Eden is at the North Pole, and the Black Rock is this magnetic pole that is pulling everything. That's a theory we can dive into one day.
That'd be interesting.
Is Nephilim actually found in the Bible, though? The answer is yes. When you look at something like Genesis 6 of the Masoretic text of the Old Testament, this is you look at it's reiterated in things like the son of Raphaim, the son of Anakim. Then you have Joshua and the 11 other scouts that go out and see the enemy. The Canaanites say that we are grasshoppers in their sight. This is reality. I mean, you can kind of chalk some of this up to a literary hyperbole if you want to, but not all of it can be. You have Og and Magog. You have Goliath and his four brothers. You have
Now,
I mean, there's just a massive list of giants and or sons of Nephilim, right? When it says in Genesis 6, it says, and the daughters came in, and the sons of God came into the daughters of men. And people, Josh takes the view of the kingly view, where they see that as royalty, or there's a Sethite view that sees the sons of God as Seth. But in the original language, it says B'nai Elohim, which is the sons of God or angels, or the original creation of God. This is something I've actually looked into pretty
It's not
heavy.
fresh in my mind. Clearly, like more off the top of your head than me.
Yes.
But
sadly,
I would say that like some of the things like we are grasshoppers to them. That to me, I mean that could easily be
chalked up.
to be
But the
hyperbole.
problem is it is paired with the sons of Raphaim or the sons of Anakim, right? And so these are the
And who are they?
Amalekites, I believe is who they were talking about.
But here's my thing. And I don't discount the fact that like you don't hear about Nephilim all the time in the Bible. There's plenty of things in the Bible that are like when you really delve into them, they're clearly mentioned, but they're so far out of the norm, like the unseen realm, and basically how God divided up the nations to other Elohim, but Israel is God's people. You almost never hear about how the gods of other nations, they weren't false idols. They were real spirit beings.
Yes.
And a lot of them were those who rebelled against God because they got so high on their own power. They were given their own little fiefdom that they began to get high on their own supply. That's what I think.
I believe it's Psalms 82 that kind of talks about the divine council and the divvying up of the nations to the angels.
Yes.
The principalities of nations.
Yes. There's a hierarchy in heaven, and therefore there are roles in heaven. There are, not all. It says, how many angels does it say there are? There's like hundreds of thousands.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
say.
but like, why have that many just to like talk to some guy every now and then? You know what I mean? They're doing things like God has them performing functions.
Well,
seen and unseen.
It says. I mean, even the demons go to and fro. Or the
Right.
fallen angels go to and fro.
They
come and go from heaven and earth. That's what it tells us. Let's see. Sparky says,
Do you
Samson
think
was-
that Satan can enter God's presence?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
That's the caveat
With
to that question.
permission.
The caveat to that question is: do you think God is omnipresent?
Yeah.
Okay, I would deny that.
You don't think he's omnipresent. Where do you think he isn't?
Well, one would be hell. Do you
I don't think-
believe in a annihilationism?
Yes.
Idiot. Idiot.
Hey man, I used to grow up thinking
I think
people hell was
annihilationism
eternal.
is cope.
I think it is too. I think there's definitely people. There's definitely people that favor annihilationism because it sounds more polite, because it sounds nice.
It's like
I'll tell you this.
It's like
if God-
purgatory is cope.
If God came down to me and said, Josh, hell is burning in the lake of fire forever and ever and ever. It's eternal life of suffering. I'd be like, hey, that's what it is. Like, the idea of that does not bother me. Separation from God is hell, and that's what it is. But I've read and seen a couple things that are pretty convincing to me that, like, God is existence itself. Eternal separation from God is what? Non-existence. I think that, yes, like in the judgment day, everyone will be recalled, everyone will be resurrected to be judged, and that those who aren't, and I don't like, look,
they'll be annihilated.
I don't think it's our place to know with any certainty of
See, I
these
think-
things,
okay,
but I
let me-
think, yes, that
I
they
think
will be
one-
destroyed with finitude at the end.
How do you
Painfully, but yes.
How do you get around this idea that if someone is annihilated, then they never existed?
No. I'm not saying they never existed, but they're
I'm saying they
annihilated.
never exist. If you annihilate the spirit, then it ought never exist.
I don't.
Or do you
we've
don't
talked
agree
about
with
this before,
Okay.
but no, I don't.
You
agree
don't
with
hold
that.
to the same, I guess, body spirit as I do.
That's
and
right.
that
we
kinda gets around. Okay.
disagree on like the body spirit distinction.
Yeah, you can hold your
Come on, all right,
your
let's get it out.
disassociation from reality to cope if you want to.
I do think annihilationism is like basically a view of hell for girls. I just happen to think it's also true.
Anya said 100 men versus a gorilla is ridiculous. Gorilla gets spooked and have crap endurance. 100 men versus Samson or perhaps a polar bear is questionable. Anya thinks 100 men could beat a gorilla.
Well, okay, we're not in this. We're not talking about we're talking about if a gorilla, whatever, was being mind controlled, whatever you want, to kill these men, would it win? I think yes.
Josh, that's you.
Body, mind. I think that when we're talking about the nature of us, there is the body, soul, and spirit, or the body, mind, and spirit. When we're talking about our natures, but when we're talking about the metaphysics, like what actually is real about, I think that the mind or the soul and the spirit are one and the same, i.e. like if our mind is what is conscious about us, then what is our spirit? Zoologists, and I can delve into that more if you have any more specific questions. But yeah, I think that like we have our body, clearly we know what that means. We have our soul, which is like almost our natural man, the aspect of our minds that is our ego maybe, and the spirit is the ego. I don't know. Like I don't know all the terms, but yeah.
Sparky says Samson and Goliath versus everyone, no weapons, who wins?
A kid with a slingshot.
I guess everyone that has ever existed. Yeah, a kid with a slingshot. That's basically the answer. Samson can't kill Christians. Huh. I haven't thought about that. I don't think.
Why couldn't he kill Christians? I don't understand. Because his strength would go away if he tried to?
All right, let's jump back into this, boys. This is the whole point of what we're here for today. This is David Hogg on Undercover. I'll check and see if they posted anything new recently. But this is Project Veritas. undercover meeting with DNC chair leader David Hogg reveals who really ran the Biden White House. He wielded an enormous power. Blah blah blah. We'll jump into that.
Off the record, of course. Foundational question for me is like, how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden, well, the president of the United States?
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary. What was his name? Anthony Trump. I've never seen him. Exactly. What do you mean? He's like a shadowy, like, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so, like, I knew how he looked, but I'm like, the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had at the White House.
Josh, you know what had the most power at the White House?
Auto pen.
That auto pen, dog. That auto pen was pumping it out like a money printing machine at the Fed. Oh man, they were pumping those signatures out. Everything that auto pen touched should be revoked. Everything, absolutely everything.
I agree. But it won't.
But it won't. Malarkey, like the video. Thanks, dude. Are you talking about our video or this video? Let me hit that retweet. Retweet. Let me check and see if they posted anything new. Oh, that's David Hogg. He's on the thumbnail, boys, because we're talking about masculinity. David Hogg, stream being David Hogg, masculinity. Yeah, I think that's all we got. Summer Hellions video is the scoop of the day and bigger than Watergate. Who expected David? Dude, I fully expected him to turn on him.
David Hogg?
Yeah. Well, they booted him from vice chair.
Yeah.
And that's how these people are. They're little. Look at him. He's a little rat, dude.
I think he's too cowardly to do anything.
I also want to note that James O'Keefe is working with Project Veritas again. They had a falling out a while back. You don't remember that, do you?
Mm-mm.
He started his own thing called O'Keefe Media Group.
Yeah.
And they didn't announce they were working together again, but they are. So I wonder what happened there. But yeah, I mean that's just kind of, I don't know. David Hogg was on the front, kind of spilling the beans about on the front of our thumbnail, so I figured we'd touch on that. Spilling the beans on the Biden administration. Josh, what are your thoughts on the Biden administration? Obviously, the auto pen, David Hogg, this chief of staff running things. You know, is it fixable? Is something like this fixable?
I mean, yes, but it's going to take people being willing to do more than what we're doing. It's like this, you know, like on Wake Up Carolina, Ken was talking today about how basically RFK came out and said that the vaccines weren't necessary. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. But it's too little, way too freaking late. And that's the thing with this. The whole Biden stuff, it doesn't matter anymore because Biden is no longer in office. And like, yeah, like a couple of the things he did. I love Sparky. A couple of the things that he did, yeah, maybe they can be overturned with this auto pen case.
But it's already done.
But it's done.
The toothpaste is out of the tube.
It's like, what if I prove to you now, beyond the shadow of doubt in court, that they stole the election in 2020? It wouldn't matter because, well, A, Donald Trump is president again, and B, because like Biden's term is over. So, and this is my
What's
point.
Done is
like,
done. There's no undo button.
And we act like, oh, this was a secret that they were keeping. This was a little bit of red meat for the base. The Democrat establishment and the Republican establishment work hand in hand. they'll give you what you want when it no longer matters, and they'll tell you it's progress. They'll tell you, like if I could give you proof that Al Capone murdered a guy today, what would it matter? What would it matter?
Anya said, yeah, it's exactly this. To be fair, half the point of enforcing the law is to stifle future incidents.
Yeah, that's true. And I do hope that things will come of it. But my point is this, is even now, nothing will happen. I know nothing ever happens.
Yeah, no, nothing ever happens, Josh.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, Zeb, look at me. I promise you, not a single thing he did with AutoPin
You don't have
will
to
be
promise me.
overturned.
I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Touch on this real quick. Sparky asked, Prime Hitler versus Josh. Ladders, tables, chairs. Who wins? Yellow Moth said meth or no
I'd
meth.
submit.
We're gonna go meth. Josh loses. No meth. Josh loses. No, just kidding.
Meth or no meth? I'll take the meth, please.
Oh, you'll take the meth.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. What's done is done. The child sniffer is irrelevant now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's irrelevant. I mean, there is definitely a relevance there. We should persecute our enemies that do bad things, and he is one of them. I think I wish he's got the prostate cancer, so we wish him a speedy recovery so we can then hang him from the tree. That's what we want.
We'll hang him by his prostate.
And somewhere in that time frame, he needs to come to Christ. I'm not really
Ninja. I say this because I want us to be realistic. I don't believe me. I don't get any like atheist Reddit tier joy out of the doomer stuff. I think that there's change. There's positive change. Like honestly, Donald Trump coming on the scene in 2015, 2016 was a genuine rejection of the establishment. It was a push in the right direction. They would absolutely rather Donald Trump never have come on the scene. But we act like that, okay, we know what we know what the establishment was doing, and then Donald Trump came on and defeated them. No, they adapted to the strategy, and what did they do? They pushed Donald Trump down, and they forced him to capitulate, and that's what's going on.
Baby Yoda says, how did Biden get away from all that touchy kid stuff? Well, he was a sweet old man, sweet old man, and kind of let him get away with stuff. And then at the end of the day, they had complete power, and they're not afraid to wield the power to, friend good, enemy bad. This is what the conservatives or the GOP Republican don't understand, right? The GOP can't tell the difference between GOP and GDP. Like that's all they care about is the economy, and themselves. Trump from 2016 is not the same as Trump 2024.
Right.
Josh, you want to take it?
Well, he's just responding to what I said about how basically Trump, like that the establishment assimilated Trump rather than Trump destroyed the establishment.
Chat, quick question. Do y'all want to try Zoom? That might be a lot. It might be a lot. But if you want to try it, I'll toss a link out there. And
where'd Ninja go? Ninja, come back. Oh no, he just commented. He just commented. You're right.
He's probably at work. Yeah, I agree, Anthony. The Trump from 2016 is not the Trump from 2024. They're different. They're both solid enough. They're better than any of the alternatives, really. I mean, Josh, what would you? I know we're still a long way away from it. What would you like to see at 2028?
Do I have to name someone that is out now, like that we know of?
Sure.
Kanye West.
No, we're not doing a Kanye. Josh, take it for a second. Let me check on what's going on outside real quick.
Oh, was someone knocking on the door just now?
I think so. Is this me? That's me.
You.
That's you.
What up?
Tyrone from the other day. What's up?
Tyrone. Hello, Tyrone.
All right, I'll be right back. I got a couple other videos I want to throw out there too.
Malarkey says,
dude, I would not put it past him. I think there's an actual possibility there.
I think there is too. Oh shoot, what'd I do with the mouth? Down. Okay, here it is. I want to see Crockett elected president. Malarkey, that would be pretty funny. And that she's actually kind of interesting. I don't see a ton of the clips of her. I know, like, here's the thing. So Zeb was just saying that he thinks they'll put Crockett forward as a presidential candidate. I actually don't think that's true. What I think is happening is they're trying to find a spicy female candidate to make Gavin Newsom easier to swallow for minorities. And Jasmine Crockett, I think at this point, she's being deployed for conservatives to react to. Basically, the Democrats are rallying their forces, and what they're doing is the establishment is waving Jasmine Crockett in our faces to distract us. We're like a bull to a red cape. Jasmine Crockett is some like half-wit black woman who got, like force-fed into Harvard, and she's going out there. She doesn't have an accent, and then she goes on TV and is clearly doing this like, child, sugar, like black lady accent to gin up. Not, and this is the thing. She's put there not to inspire Democrats, but to provoke Republicans. That's what she's there for. She is the red cape to the bull. That's what's going on here. So yeah, that's what I think about Jasmine Crockett being elected. Crockett Rocket is inelectable or isn't electable. Exactly. That's the point. Is she's there so that conservatives can go, look how stupid the Democrats are. It's fake. It's there to distract you. This is not real. I think what's her name? Why am I remember other things about her, not her name though. The crazy lady, Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She might be good because yeah, she's dumb, but she's manageable. Jasmine Crockett thinks way too highly of herself. AOC knows she's in over her head and is completely coached. I mean, you saw a drastic shift in her rhetoric after Trump got elected. And that's because she basically got in over her head, and she is she's basically like a totally controlled op by the Democratic Party. Should the 19th Amendment be repealed? Absolutely. Trump is funded by AIPAC. So how MAGA is he, or is he MIGA? Yeah, I mean, exactly. We're basically... This is something Nick Fuentes was saying before the debate, and he's absolutely right, where basically Trump in 2016 was completely self-funded. Then he got like unelected. It was a fake election, but he got unelected, and then they went after him. They went after him with full force, and he needed donors. He needed the money. All the thing he was running on not being bought, he is now bought. And you see it because basically, like, he's doing everything that they want. The corporate tax cuts, money for Israel. And another thing is, look, credit where credit's due. I got this from Nick Fuentes, and I think he's right. All these stories you're seeing about Trump parting ways with Netanyahu, that is what they said about Biden and Netanyahu, but nothing tangible changed with Biden in Israel. And I think that's what's going on with Trump now is, say what you will about the Jews, they're not stupid. They realize the way the tides are shifting. So what they're doing is they are going to get their war with Iran. Let's be honest. What they're doing is putting these signals in our face that like, oh, that Trump is pushing back against them, when what's really happening is they're just saying that to dull our reaction, to dull our response. Let me see here. AOC got too rich too fast and is a perfect candidate and has enough sex appeal. 100%. 100%. AOC is someone who was like, didn't she run on like a bet or something? And then she won because she's a sexy, like spicy Latina, and the guy she was running against was like 90 years old or something like that. Yeah, she won. And then she realized she was way in over her head and was like, they didn't even have to go to her, I bet. She probably went to them and was like, tell me what to do. I'll help you. Just help me. And they were like, sure thing, girlfriend. Just wear some tight shirts and go on TV whenever we tell you to do. So, blah, blah, blah. He wouldn't have went to jail if he didn't get elected. Zionists saw their opportunity and he would have went to jail if he got elected. Zionists saw their opportunity and bought him. Absolutely, Malarkey. That's what I'm saying is basically the establishment assimilated Trump. Trump did not destroy the establishment. Nick Fuentes is a useful idiot, causes more division, just makes the globalist job easier. I don't know if I agree with that. I do agree that he's very divisive, and I'm like Zeb would say that too. But is he a useful idiot? I mean, what do you think of this comment, Zeb?
Who? Nick?
Nick Fuentes is a useful idiot. Hold on, let me shift
Nick makes it very hard for me to believe he is genuine. If he's not a psyop, he's very bad at not being a psyop. And you might not like that answer. I don't know where you stand. If you still on the Fuentes train.
Yeah.
But I think because, dude, I listened to Nick a lot a while back, and I liked a lot of what he says, but more recently, especially with the Muslim partner up with somebody like Sneeko and some of those other guys, and then you got this Ye thing, and he's still championing Ye. It's like, dude, come on, man. I'm gonna get this Zoom thing situated here in a second, but if he's not like some type of psyop might be the right word.
Might be the right word?
Might not be the right word.
Okay.
But it's definitely a diversion from what ought to be.
Well, let me
in the same way that Andrew Tate is.
So okay, so let me ask you then about that. Because Andrew Tate, I can tell you, he's not a Christian, he's a polygamist, and I disagree with those things. Mm-hmm. What does Nick say that you disagree with? Or what does he do?
I don't know specifically anymore. I don't pay attention to it, but I know this championing of Ye that he has is very, at a minimum, at an absolute minimum, it's just bad optics, right? And then I want to, but then he talks bad about like Patriot Front types, but they have better optics than what some of this is. Let's see. Let me find. He keeps pushing this. Listen, everybody understands that Trump Vance immediately spoke out about the murder of Israeli diplomats last night. Still not a word about Austin Metcalf. Yeah, I mean, is he right about this stuff? Yes, absolutely. But then you want to. He has a bad habit, and this is not just Nick Fuentes, this is a lot of them. They have a bad habit of not being able to admit when they were wrong, yet they champion themselves when they are right.
So what was he wrong about?
A lot of stuff.
Well, okay, so walk me through it. I mean, I like, listen, if Nick is a psyop, I don't want to be fooled, but I think he's genuine.
I'd have to put something together. Because I'm not ready for it right now. Maybe it's in his replies.
That's fair. That could be a stream for us one day.
Let's see. I don't know what this is. Chat, bear with me real quick. This is completely fake. If you ever seen that video. This is a fake video.
That?
Gross. Oh, put your foot down off of her chair.
Oh, no.
Who are you talking to?
Old
Lady? Who are you talking to?
No. Please don't.
You got a problem?
Oh.
What's the problem, man? Yeah, put her foot down. You gonna fight him?
Yeah, that's.
This dude. Me and Ronnie did a video on him. I think I said in that video that he won't last long just because he just seems very libertarian to me.
Oh, I thought you were saying you disagreed with Nick's take on that guy, which was exactly the same.
No, I agree.
thing.
I agree with. I mean, I agree with me. Nick just happens to agree. I'm looking for something that I'm not going to be able to find. Sorry, chat. But no, I just don't. His arc, at least in like last year and a half, has been very poor optics, at least from my perspective.
I mean,
I'd have to get a list.
Like here's my
list
thing
down.
though is we owe Myron something, and Myron's not a Christian. Myron's a polygamist.
Oh, for sure.
Like, would our alliance with him be questionable?
No, I mean, I would say our alliance with Fuentes isn't questionable. The question is, what is the alliance for? And you can have alliances for something separate from alliances with other people, right?
So,
if
okay, so-
the intent is to restore, if the intent is to deport all of the illegals, we can have alliance with someone. If the intent is to make America white again, it's not going to be an alliance with those same people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it, but there's something to be said about this.
Destroying a thing is different than rebuilding a thing.
Yeah.
And different alliances are necessary for that thing, right? The same people that you destroy something with aren't going to be the same people you rebuild with.
I think it's a case of like cause like I do watch Nick. I missed a few of his shows recently, but basically his alliances with these guys are conditional. In the sense,
all alliances are conditional.
Well, yeah, sure, but that's my point. Is he says the things that he's like, this is what I like about them is that they're moving the meter, and basically he thinks because he has the right message. Because what I'm hearing for you is okay, and I get you could just let me finish.
Yay is specific.
Specifically, yay.
Yeah, along with some of the others, but yes.
And yay, I understand, because I do get his alliance with Andrew, Myron, Sneeko, Hodge twin. You know, like
Sneeko's questionable too.
Well, and the thing is now like Sneeko was useful at a point, and now I think they're just kind of friends. But yay, that's definitely questionable to me, and I do agree that I think he's coping a little bit. But I think it's out of a place of admiration because he is a huge Ye fan and he met his idol and him and his idol got along. And for him to throw Ye completely under the bus for doing unoptical things, I don't think that's in his nature. And I almost like, I do kind of understand why he wouldn't do it. Doesn't make it right. Maybe he should, but I honestly, I do kind of get it. You know, it's not enough for me to think he's a psyop. Because I'll admit, when the whole stuff with Catboy Cammy came out, do you remember that?
I don't think he's a psyop, but it's really hard for me to be convinced that he's not. I think he's not a psyop. I think he's relatively genuine, but the problem is it comes off like that. Does that make sense?
It
Maybe
comes
not.
off as disingenuous?
Yes.
Well, I think he's just a super arrogant guy.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's the answer.
Maybe that's why you don't like him.
Maybe so. I'm the most arrogant, not you. So people are making racist skits, and the masses are being fall for it. Yeah, yes, they are.
The masses are the masses.
The Jew that got that said the N-word in the Uber when the black lady got kicked out, that they never showed the black lady's face. That was a skit. He was also behind the GoFundMe or the Give Send Go for Shiloh Hendricks. Yeah, this is going to happen more and more because people think that they can win the lottery. Making an entire show about Nick. I've been a follower since Wasaki Worski and Kumite debates, but question how the left didn't take him down when they had the chance. Yeah, we'll have to do a full stream on just Fuentes. That would be fun.
Sure.
That would be fun. We'd have to like review his arc. I think he's come a long way. If Nick is a Christian, then Tate is a Christian too. Yeah, I wouldn't equate the two, but I think Nick is very theologically weak, and
I agree with that.
Nick is a virgin waiting on marriage. Tate converted to Islam for community and protection. Yeah, Snicko, Tate, all of these guys that mostly the Islam guys, the Muslim guys are very optically Muslim for the benefit that comes with it from community. But Tristan claims to be Christian, so I think there is a optically difference there. Doesn't Nick want to make America just white? Isn't that anti-Christian, anti-Jesus? I would say no. It is pro-Christian, right? Christianity, as it ought to be, this is what we talked about early on, is we don't want to be lied to, is that nations exist, and recognizing that nations exist and they can't coexist with each other and become a singular nation. This is meaning a group of people that have a shared heritage, a shared descendants, their shared culture. That is what brings out a nation, and a nation cannot coexist with another nation in a country and try to maintain itself. This is the downfall of multiculturalism in itself. This is why God separated them at the Tower of Babel. This is why we have natural separations of geographical natural separations. If you believe in the Bible, this is why oceans separate people. This is why mountains separate people, because nations are different in themselves. We kind of dove into that a little bit earlier too. He wants to reclaim white majority like in the past, but it is antithetical to the Catholic doctrine. I would agree. I agree it is antithetical to the Catholic doctrine.
Is it?
Yes. The Catholic Church believes in essentially no nations. They don't believe in
a universal church.
And this is another issue I have with Nick and his Catholic. Catholicism denies nationhood. This is somebody like E. Michael Jones. He'll deny that race is real and say it's a social construct, but then hold up the Jews, because his Catholic position forces him into that. It forces you into saying that if you're not going to be disingenuous, it forces you into saying that nations aren't real. It's just a social construct when we know that it is. Anthony is correct. It is antithetical to the Catholic doctrine, but I would see, I think Catholicism is false, therefore it is not necessarily anti-Christian. And my opinion, no, I think you're exactly right. You can't hold Catholicism and be a nationalist in the same.
I don't know enough about Catholicism, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean, the closest they got was a unified Europe, which was essentially singularly cultural with varying degrees of the same culture. Like that's as far as the Catholic Church got. And what you have now is a denial of nature. Hodge Twins are done. Yes. I used to watch Hodge Twins a lot. Not so much anymore.
They're entertaining.
Definitely entertaining. Josh, where are the new Hodge Twins? Yeah.
Demon got me.
What are the people that do or say things to move opinions in the Overton window? I'm missing the word. Radicals? What would you?
What are people that do or say things to move opinions?
Oh, provocateur. Yeah. Fuentes is that. I would say somebody like Milo is a provocateur. I don't know if I would classify Nick as a provocateur.
He's provocative, but he's not someone who
he's
doing it for the sake of being provocative.
Yes. Milo is provocative to be provocative.
Yes.
Fuentes isn't provocative to be provocative. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
He does have a vision. Milo is simply like a money-making homo.
New Testament says a Christian nation should be spiritual, not physical, because why did Paul say avoiding genealogies and favoring people based on their ethnicity? Can you rebut that, brother? Yes, I can. So Paul was specifically talking to the pagans. I believe in Corinth, if I'm not mistaken, but they were speaking on the genealogies. Paul was speaking on the genealogy specifically because they were trying to give themselves righteousness based on their heritage.
Right.
Right. This is what Paul was rebutting. Paul also follows up and says that if I could, give my flesh for my people to be saved, I would, right? Who is Paul's people? Paul's people are the Jewish people, those of Judea. And so he denies, Paul's writing against the genealogies because they are trying to endow themselves with righteousness based on their fathers, not themselves, right? This is the individualism of Protestantism. And whereas Paul is trying to, when he says, I'll give my flesh for my people to be saved, talking about the Jews, he's admitting that nationhood exists. I think that would be sufficient in rebutting that. Yes? Okay.
Yeah, it's context. It's like just because Paul says the words, don't like focus on your genealogy, therefore like deny that race exists or anything like,
Sparky says an Asian or a black Christian is more of a family to me than a white atheist. See, I don't agree with that necessarily. Nation. Listen, here's the deal.
But
nationhood
exists. The point is you would have more in common with a white Christian than a Asian Christian or a black Christian.
Yes, because you are of the same nation, this worldly nation. And these are the idea of the two kingdoms. This is a problem with somebody like dispensationalists where they believe that God's coming back soon, so therefore they store up their treasures in heaven and they do nothing on earth but allow the boomer dispensationalists allow their children to bear the burden of the reality. This is the problem. You can't separate the two and then only rely on one. Right. If you're going to separate them, you have to hold both of them. I think they should be essentially one and the same. This is the problem when you come to like missionary work, right? We should be spreading the gospel to, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, didn't we? Who was I talking with this about?
Spreading the gospel?
Technological advancement. The Great Commission, was that us yesterday?
Yeah, that was us. Yeah.
We kind of talked about this yesterday. Whereas a British nation that is Christian and more technologically advanced has the ability to go out and this is with Ninja, go out and spread the word. Whereas if you have this multiculturalism that degrades the nation where it doesn't even have the ability because it suicides itself from spending all of its time and money elsewhere. There has to be a balance there. Or otherwise, you're just going to have to import everyone to have the. Let's see. That rebuttal proves my point. God doesn't want us to be a respecter of persons. It says we treat the brethren more than the non-brethren. Like if you're saying I should do business with Christians, I agree with you. But the idea of a nation in itself is physical. You said Christian nation. See, there's no such thing as a Christian nation. Nationhood, nationality is specifically genealogical. It is specifically a shared heritage. It is specifically a culture. A Christian nation can only exist inside of...
You can have a Christian country.
Yes.
That's what you mean. No, him, not you.
Yeah, that's what he means. He means Christian country or Christian culture. It should be spiritual. It can be both, but a nation is inherently physical. It is inherently ethnic. And this is, I don't know. Maybe that's enough. What time is it?
It's 4:40.
I really wanted to get the Zoom out. Where's the? Let me shoot that link. Let's try this out, boys. Did I send it to you?
Zumbo. I don't think so.
Eeny, meeny, miny. Zoom interview. Copy link. All right, I'm gonna throw this thing in the chat. If somebody wants to join, they can. There is something else I want to talk about while we were doing this. Let's see. Patriot Fronty. Here's Patriot Front. Oh, this was it. Is this? On the Missouri. Where's the Missouri one? Did everybody just rip the video? Where's the original source? What's the date on this? No, that's like 4 or 5 years ago. Let's go to the latest. Chat, I'm sorry. I thought I had this. Yeah, that's not going to give me what I want either. I'll find it. I'll find it here in a second.
I think, I mean, I agree with
What's your okay? Go ahead, sorry.
Nick's take on Patriot Front, which is basically we're Proud Boys or whatever, which I know the Proud Boys did not start as like a political movement. It was more of like a social club. But to put a name,
I don't really know that much about it.
To put a name on the group, to like organize it and have a list, like there's no advantage to that whatsoever. To have basically an informal connect. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think there is.
Why?
Because we're
what
at
he
the
says
point-
is the RICO. You can get charged with RICO. One guy at one meet says or does the wrong thing, and then you're all gone.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The question is then, how do you form any type of coherence in a movement? At some point, this decentralization that the right has, or the new right, or the dissident right, or call it what you will, the woke right, has to have some centralization to make any headway moving forward.
I agree at some point, but
I think the point is now.
I don't think so. I think
it is, dude.
Why now and why? Like, why
Well,
was
because you're
2016
gonna
a
have-
bad time, and why is now a better time?
Because you have a lot of people waking up. And
I don't
you
think it's
have to
enough.
get ahead of it. You can't start. You can't have it too late, because if you miss the window, then there's no point.
The window?
Yeah, the window. So like if everybody wakes up but there's no centralization, then there's no movement forward. If you have centralization and nobody's woken up, then there's no movement forward, because it necessarily requires some form of centralization. I'm not saying Patriot Front is the answer. I'm just saying that there must be some centralization moving forward if there's going to be any coherence in what I guess this new right is doing.
I'm gonna read Xanthony's because he agrees with me. Patriot Front def hijacked by the feds, and
I don't think so, dude.
You don't think Patriot Front is hijacked by the feds?
Here's the deal: if they were hijacked by the feds, they would be gone like all the other ones when
Infiltrated.
USAID was defunded.
Infiltrated.
I don't know their recruiting standards, and I would say probably not, or otherwise they wouldn't exist right now.
I don't think so. I don't.
Why not?
Because I don't think Patriot Front is moving the meter. I mean, if you did, and
I think they don't have to move the meter. I think they are the maybe not the, but they're the idea of centralization moving forward. Like, so Rodney asked me the question of what does boots on the ground look like? Taking office? Yeah. How much can you actually do with that? Like at some point you have to have, don't take this the wrong way, you have to have some type of enforcement arm. Not to, claim vigilantism, but you have to have some type of enforcement arm of at a minimum to do something, right? If we have all of these videos of, kids that don't belong here stealing things from people's purses, and then they get villainized, or you have January 6th, or you have, I don't know. I mean, you just go down the list of everything that's going on. Some vigilantism is going to crop up. I'm not saying Patriot Front is doing evangelism. I don't think they are doing vigilantism, but I think I think there is a place for some form of centralization
at some point, but I think it's just way too early. I think that at this point in time, there's no advantage to be gained because basically you and I agree that there is such a thing. This is where like where me and my boss Ken disagree is essentially this idea that, the problem is that people, they just don't educate themselves. They just don't. There is the masses. people require a leader. So I think the best thing is basically to maybe, at least for now, it's someone like Trump. It's populism. It's rally behind the right leader. And then it's like, you don't have to have an organization, because if the leader says do something, then people will do it. And again, it has its problems, and it's not the final solution, but it is more aligned with what we need right now. Because I'm telling you, Zeb, if Patriot Front isn't being shut down right now because they're not doing anything that bad, but they're not doing anything that bad because they're not effective at all. They're barely effective.
I guess, what does effective mean to you? Like, what would be effective from a...
Well, that's my point.
Whatever they are. I don't even know what they are.
Is the point in time for people that aren't police officers to go on the ground with masks and shields and weapons? It is absolutely in the past. Like, that is something that is not required right now.
I disagree with you 1,000%.
What will they do?
It eventually is going to come down to a numbers game.
Eventually.
Oh, then when do you start?
But start what? Like what does putting
start centralization? I'm not saying it's just Patriot Front. That's irregardless of the kind of the argument that's being made right now.
No. Okay, but perfect. So if Nick Fuentes were to organize Groyper Front or like some group, and then they hosted a rally where it was like, okay, here's all the people, sign up, sign your name to it. And then one guy throws a bottle of piss on a police officer, they can arrest every single person on that list. There is, like, I get...
Again,
centralization is effective.
Let me ask you this. Do they have good optics?
The Groypers?
No, Patriot Front.
I don't know enough about them, but I'll say sure for the sake of argument.
They have fairly solid optics.
Okay.
They mask up. I don't know if they have like a running list. I don't think it's something that you can just acquire. I would assume there is a significant amount of anonymity that is run inside those circles. And I don't think there's a list to go round people up. And so again, I say this is a numbers game. So I would assume that they're playing a long game of building enough numbers that you can't just rally people up. Right? Who's going at the end of the day? Who's going to? I say the end of the day. Let's give it 3-4 years.
It's okay, but Zeb, see, the point is, it's not about rallying every single right-wing person up.
No, it's not.
It's about rallying enough of them up.
There you go.
To scare people into not doing anything.
To have people not afraid to do something. Those are different things.
To have people, yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
To not be alone. That's essentially what we're going after. I think that's what somebody like Patriot Front.
Here's the thing: is as our side is really jazzed right now, they're really energized right now. What they are waiting, in the same way, like these two Israeli diplomats who got shot. I don't think that was planned. I don't think that was staged. I do think that happened organically. But it is exactly the excuse they need to crack down on anti-Semitism. And you saw it. Xanthony in the chat was talking about how after Trump got in, Nick Fuentes was allowed on Instagram. There was a ton of Nick Fuentes clips. I liked a lot of them. I saved a bunch of them. And now they're all gone. After a few days after those two people got shot, all of Nick's stuff is gone off of Instagram. And that is kind of the point, is it's like, what they need is the excuse to go hard. And you get a group of people.
So what do you do, Josh? Nothing.
I'm not saying you don't do nothing, but you don't put everyone's name on a list for the feds to arrest.
I don't think they have a list like that. Let me put it like this.
But my point is,
if I was Thomas Rousseau and I was running Patriot Front or whoever runs it, he's just the face of it.
Okay.
Everybody's masked up. They probably don't. I would make sure that there's not some running list Sparky. Somewhere. I would have a decentralization inside of the centralized operation. Does that make sense? A little bit, maybe not.
I'm scratching an
Maybe
itch.
ask a question. Define a woke right. Can you give examples of people that are woke right? I would deny that woke right exists or is even a thing. I used that term earlier just with regards to the way James Lindsay uses it, and they're trying to redefine that as a dissident right, or I would call them the new right or new Christian right. I was kind of a throwaway framing to get an idea of who we're talking about, which I guess.
I would say, to your comment, it's like, I'm not saying do nothing, but what does like being in a riot help?
I mean, Patriot Front hasn't done any riots.
No, I know, but like, so my
I'm
point
not
is,
arguing for riots.
what are you arguing for then? Like organizing?
Yeah.
Okay, organizing.
Some type of show of force.
Organizing to do what?
To show that you are not alone.
Okay. I don't see why having a group or a completely centralized group can accomplish that better than what someone like Nick is doing, where it's like he has a name for his fans, the Groypers. People can put Groyper in their tag, and he has lieutenants, but there's nothing official. There's nothing on paper. All you can chalk it up to is these guys are in a group chat or these guys are friends.
Okay,
There's no legal. The point is,
didn't he have like a campaign for like Mississippi or somewhere that they were supposed to turn out and vote down somebody up there? I don't know the exact specifics about it.
Like Joe Kent is
I
CIA.
think the problem
That guy?
is Groypers don't turn out in person. And it's specifically because of the decentralization. But it takes in person to do things. The world doesn't run on the internet.
No,
And
I agree, but really the problem is enough people are so below the baseline that they don't find these types of conversations or groups palatable. It's not that Patriot Front is more
How do you
optical.
make them palatable?
Well, okay, so
the answer is you
just
make
on
them
paper,
palatable
just
by
on
putting them in front of people continuously. And I think that's what they're doing. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
You guys in costumes walking around is not. That's not cool.
What about a pointy hat costume? It absolutely is cool.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
That like LARPing,
Okay.
dude. Come on, man.
Okay, what would you say about the Nazis in their uniforms?
They were an army.
What is a militia?
Okay, but the point is they were the ruling government.
How
are
did
not.
they become the ruling government?
Yeah, but this is a different time.
Again, yes, I agree.
It's totally different. I get what you're saying. I get why centralization is effective, but
necessary.
No.
Yes.
If eventually,
I agree with you eventually.
But not now. But you said now.
Okay, in 2, 3, 4 years, 5, 6 years. How long
Maybe.
does it take to
Maybe.
ramp up a centralized?
But that's my point. Don't be so committed to the timetable. Don't worry about.
I'm not committed to the timetable.
But
it takes time to ramp something up, right? I
get
can't
that.
start a business overnight.
So let's not worry about when is it a good time to put a costume on, and or a group of guys to put the same costume on. Let's worry about like how do we move the meter, and moving the meter does not look like how it did in Germany in the 30s or in the 20s. It's a different world now. It's social media, it's clips, it's entertainment. It's not people. It doesn't matter who you are.
I don't disagree with you.
People look at political activists like freaks.
Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. No.
Only
it's coming, and it's going to get more and more obvious.
Your average leftist thinks Antifa are freaks.
Sure.
Your average conservative thinks Patriot Front are freaks.
Your average conservative is a boomer that's going to die in 10 years.
But the youth, but this is what I'm saying is I don't want the youth
How
to
do
get
you
wrapped up in the
weaponize
wrong
young
stuff.
men? This is the topic of the stream. How do you weaponize young men?
This is where there's a bug over there and it kind of spooked me for a second. But this is where I think Nick, his message actually makes a lot of sense. And what he says is this: putting on a costume and going to rallies isn't as important as you becoming someone powerful.
I don't disagree with that.
Become a lawyer. Become like
I would say-
get into politics. But the point is doing marches in the streets, it's not palatable anymore.
Why can't you do both? What do you? It doesn't.
Okay, you can do both, but should you?
Why not?
Because it's not
You
palatable.
say it's not
anymore.
palatable. I don't think it's. It may not be palatable now, but eventually it will be. It will have to be. It is necessary.
Eventually.
You can't start something next day.
I agree.
So when is that eventually? 2050?
No. Okay, I wasn't sure what you meant by that, but like this idea that like you have to get in on the ground level. I just don't get it.
What is the March for Life? What is the March for anything in DC, right? It's a show of force.
Okay,
it's to say,
but my point,
I have numbers behind my ideas, and we are going to do something about it. That's what showing up in person does. And I don't think that groypers show up in person.
If I'm trying to understand what you're saying here, because if the argument is we need to show up in person for certain things, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that Patriot Front, which is an organization where people put pen to paper with their name on it, that like RICO law did not exist in the 20s.
I don't know how Patriot Front operates, so
I don't either. I'm
really, that's a lot of assumption there.
If you or I were to get a big enough following on here, and we were to say, let's go to the state house in South Carolina to come out
and
for
burn
this
it down. No,
to come out for this candidate, and we're doing it peacefully. Any violence is not endorsed by us. What does us saying, all right, our fans, tell us your names on this piece of paper, and we're going as this centralized group? The two accomplish the same thing, but the problem is that one gets everyone
you're
into
like
trouble.
conflating Proud Boys with Patriot Front, and I don't think those things should be conflated. Proud Boys are,
but Patriot Front does have like members. They do.
Sure,
have
they have members, but there's no violence. There's no beating back riots. There's no counter protest. I mean, they go out and show force and show their numbers, and they do it periodically to. This is just okay. I'm not associated, so that's just what it seems to me. This is the same kind of game I would play when we say, hey, here's our numbers this year. Okay, in a quarter, we're going to come back and march in. I think they marched in Missouri. They got more showing out there than they have any other march. So it shows that they're growing. It's a growing organization. Therefore, it is becoming palatable because people want to be where other people are. And I don't think something like Proud Boys that don't exist anymore, or Blood Tribe, or some of these other right-wing nationalist organizations don't exist anymore, whereas Patriot Front does. And so they were all taught how, Patriot Front's going to get, lose all their USAID funding when Doge.
But here's what I'm afraid of. Let's say you have someone who is infiltrating the GOP. They're a young man in their like late 20s, maybe early 30s, who's starting a family, who is like a lawyer, and they're eventually going to run for office one day, and they sign up for Patriot Front because it was there, it was palatable, and it was something to do. And then they go to a rally and they say, I'm a member of this club. Here's my name. Here's my date of birth. Whatever. I don't know what they do.
I would
let me finish.
Just let me finish. Very long limb and say that's not what happens.
And they go. Just hear me out. And they go to this rally and they say like we're going to this rally or whatever. And then it doesn't even have to be I'm going to this rally. If he's a part of that group, and then someone in that group beats the crap out of somebody or shoots somebody or throws a Molotov cocktail, they can all be rounded up. And then we have lost that asset.
All right, Josh.
If they go as like say, hey, I'm a populist leader, I'm telling you to go to this
If you're
rally.
gonna, if there's a chance of you getting a cold, are you going to stay inside the rest of your life?
Zeb,
It is comparable. It is comparable.
It's an unnecessary risk.
So is going outside if you're going to get a cold.
No. Okay, what I'm saying is you can accomplish, it's not comparable.
No, you can't.
Because
No, you can't.
can accomplish enough, and one day maybe the centralization will be effective, but you can accomplish the same things that you want to accomplish with a decentralized group without
you can't.
incriminating yourself.
You cannot. It can't be done.
Why not?
Because it requires centralization. It requires showing up in person. It requires that.
If getting people to show up in person is the goal, you can do that without putting it to an organization.
No, you can't.
You can
name one.
You may not get as many people, but you can get enough people. That's the point.
No,
it's
I don't
not.
think
It's
you
not.
can.
That is something. There are some things that are not worth the risk, and that is one of them.
Is Patriot Front palatable to the disassociated or disenfranchised young men?
Sorry, I was reading Sparky's comment. I love you,
We're going to run
Sparky,
through comments
and
here.
I would never fight Hitler.
Baby Una says, Zeb, come on, man. That's such a false equivalence. All right, let me.
Yeah. It's like the chances of this government, this Department of this Department of Justice, this Department of Defense, whatever, coming after a right-wing
what was the
group
false
is
equivalence?
The cold analogy.
Oh.
It's
I don't
far
think
more
I don't
likely
think
for
it's a
them
false
to.
equivalence. The question is,
It totally is.
No, it's not. It's you can would the false equivalence be it's an unnecessary risk? Is that kind of the cold is a necessary risk, whereas Patriot, wanting to centralize is an unnecessary risk. I see.
No. It's not about wanting to centralize. It's wanting to organize.
They're the same thing.
No. Organize meaning put it into an organization. Something that is
you can't centralize without
traceable.
organization.
Okay. You can be organized without establishing something on paper that has a once you establish something on paper, it has a legal basis behind it for them to come after you with RICO law.
They're gonna come. It doesn't. You say RICO law. It doesn't matter.
But my point
was January 6th organized? No.
If Nick Fuentes or you or anybody went to a rally and they were a part of the Proud Boys, if they were a part of the Proud Boys, which wasn't even a political thing, it was a social thing, and they're like, let's go to this rally, and then one guy breaches the Capitol, whatever, kills somebody, they can arrest everyone that was there on that day because they were in that group. You can have
they did it
people
anyway, regardless.
I know, but you can.
It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter.
But no. What you're saying is, okay, because they're going to come after you no matter what.
Yes.
Therefore, let's make it easier for them.
No, they're going to come at you no matter what, regardless. Period.
Make
it easier doesn't matter.
The point being,
easier is irrelevant because it doesn't matter.
If you're someone who's doing a respectable podcast and I'm some right wing like antisocial nut job, if you and I are standing hand in hand and we have our names on the same list that you don't even know I'm on it, and then I shoot someone or stab someone in the chest, they can arrest you too. There's no point in that.
Okay, so. Let's get through some of these chats.
We got super chats.
We're starting to go around in a little bit of circles, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
She Patriot on my front. Axolotl, welcome to the stream. Ninja said, "There's a balance." I think we're. No, we're not. Let's see.
We are way.
Yeah, we're way behind, boys. Josh, do you not like Sparky now because he wanted you to fight Hitler?
I love you, Sparky. I will never.
Gropers are important in the information war. Also, modern day neo-Nazis are Hollywood caricatures. The director of American History X, for example, is an Orthodox Jew.
I've never seen a neo-Nazi in real life.
Have you seen American History X?
No.
Really?
Is that the movie with Ryan Gosling where he gets bucked up the fucked up. Oh shoot, bucked up the foot.
Yes. Yeah, he's an Orthodox Jew, right? Because American History X was written and directed for the sole purpose of essentially
dissuading people.
Yeah, dissuading people, right? Away from anything nationalistic and trying to implant this color blindness into people. Why do you want a centralized system so bad? It doesn't matter if I want one. I believe it necessary to move anything.
And you're a former Marine. Fed.
Oh, I'm definitely a Fed, boys. No, listen, I got turned away from the marshals because I didn't wear a dress to the interview. So, take that up. Take that up with whoever needs to.
I remember you telling me that story. I don't remember that part of it.
Centralization allows power to be utilized more efficiently. This is exactly correct. I would even go as far to say it allows power to be utilized, period. I don't think decentralization allows the utilization of power at all.
I agree that if you want people to be directed more efficiently, then yes, centralization is the key. But there's a huge Achilles heel in modern day centralization.
I want to get to this one. Mr. Boy, welcome to the stream. He says, using metadata to find Power Vera to do nothing. He's saying, he's basically parroting what you said as, just tell everybody everything's going to shit and then don't do anything about it.
Not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can organize rallies and stuff, but there's no point in putting it behind a finite or a definite organization.
But then you can't organize the rallies effectively. Power Vera was a freak. What? Was he? I don't know. I don't know enough about Power Vera. I know he rode a horse and said the British are coming. That's about all I got on him.
Again, we're not
talking.
talking.
Power Vera book over there actually. I haven't read it yet.
Ninja, we're not talking about a government or a military.
A decentralized government military cannot defend. Well, essentially we are. We're talking about a militia.
Yeah,
it could
exactly.
be a localized government.
There's no point in having a militia right now.
Absolutely, there is. Absolutely, without question.
To do what?
Defend at a minimum. Defend locally. When the race war starts out, is it going to be too late to start your centralization?
I got bad news for you, Zeb.
It's already started.
There is no zombie apocalypse.
Are you sure? It might not be zombies, but there's something coming.
No. Okay, fair enough. Unless
we
you
got
live,
100.
Unless
we
you
got
live
200
in
million
Springfield, Ohio. But the point is, there will be no war. It will simply get to the point where we have no power, and then we'll just be killed. It won't be a war.
Is there a war in South Africa?
There's a struggle. I don't know if it's not a war.
Let me say this. I agree.
White person on site, bang bang, where every single black person wants to kill a white person. Like
virtually, it is.
But they're not doing it. It hasn't escalated to a war yet.
It hasn't escalated to a war because they don't have numbers. The whites in South Africa are less than 7% of the population. That's why it's not escalated to a war, because it's a war of attrition that they will simply win.
That's my point. That's what they're doing. They're not trying to fight us, because once they what's the word I'm looking for? Once they I want to say calcify, but I know that's not right.
Crystallize, catalyze.
Once they catalyze white people, and once every white person becomes a racist again, they'll lose. They're not doing that. They're playing a slow game, whether they realize it or not. I think it's unintentional, but I think that's what's happening, because it's being directed by not black people. Let's say that.
All right, let's get to Lord of the Ree. Thank you for the super chat. First one is Patriot Front glows more than my red dot site. If you said like Blood Tribe, and I used to agree with you. I used to agree with you. I think Patriot Front is different than Blood Tribe or Proud Boys or all of these others that simply don't exist anymore. And it's been a really recent, or I guess revelation, if you want to call it that, a change of mind, because if you go by Josh's position, Patriot Front shouldn't exist, but it does exist. So the question then lends itself to, is it glowing?
No. And again, that's like the conspiracy theory idea of it's like, well, if like I'm not trying to
go for it,
characterize your thing here improperly, but it's like it's kind of circular reasoning where, well, if what Josh is saying is they would go after any organization, then they would. It's because Patriot Front is optical. It's because, but my point being is Patriot Front saying the things we're saying? I don't know. Maybe they are, but are they?
We need to. I wanted to do a review on some of Thomas Rousseau's stuff where he talked to Patrick Bet-David like a year or so ago. My main issue with Thomas Rousseau is not what he actually says; it's what he believes or denies to believe. Right? He's not Christian, but then claims to want a Christian nation, which doesn't make any sense.
My point is you can have an organization like Patriot Front that is almost certainly infiltrated, but it's not being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like destroyed?
Glowed into the ground?
Glowed in the ground because unlike Blood, what was it? Blood
Tribe,
Proud Boys is because they're not like radical. We are. That's my point.
I think Patriot Front is pretty radical. We need to do it. We'll do a video on Patriot Front. We'll do one on Nick Fuentes.
I'm going to say
we'll
this.
do some review on Thomas Rousseau's
if
stuff.
If anything happens to Patriot Front in the near future, I want an apology.
I will apologize.
Thank you.
That's why I'm never going to make it, boys. Baby Una says, come on, man. Lol. That's such a false equivalence. Maybe. I'll grant you a half of a false equivalence on that. I think the analogy, it might have been a false equivalence, but the analogy held. In my opinion, nah. Yeah, I mean, y'all can disagree with me. It's okay. I mean, it's just like Josh.
Here it comes.
Just like Josh.
Here it comes.
Just like Josh, boy. Rural centralization hasn't been tried. In this context,
he's got you there.
In this context, I don't think it has. I mean, if I would say real centralization has been tried, right? This is the Confederate States of America, right? This is secession. That's what centralization takes.
It's not the Civil War anymore.
I agree. It's not the Civil War.
The media, like it's spy.
You're never going to get a whole state to secede. It's just not going to happen.
Well, that's exactly my point.
So how do you do it? You just accept the world as it is?
Okay, well, if we're talking about getting a state to secede, there's no point.
No, I'm not talking about getting a state to secede. I'm talking about getting enough people to have a show of force to where other people are willing to get behind an idea because they aren't alone.
So this is kind of what Rodney was saying is like, why, like what's the boots on the ground look like? Boots on the ground today doesn't look like
I disagree
boots on the ground. It looks like people going out online. That's what it looks like.
I disagree. I don't. Online only gets you so far. I don't disagree that there's
agree.
a war to be fought on the internet.
There will be a time for rallies, but who's rallies?
By the time it comes, it is too late to try to centralize anything. And this is what we talked about with Rodney before. Is he kind of asked the question of who are we? Right? I'm not saying we are Patriot Front, but I am saying that there is a decentralization among the right, whether that's the Groypers or this Christian nationalist movement or some other version of this Christian nationalist movement or some of the just white nationalists flailing about that just want to deport all the illegals, or either the Myrons, the Fuentes, the Andrew Tates that want to push this idea. Like there's an alliance there that could be had to kind of move this ball forward. And it has to be some form of centralization to carry any weight.
Eventually
is too late to start.
You don't know
what
that.
I'm saying.
You don't.
I do know that.
But what I'm telling you is this: if you have a movement that is right, they're Christian in all the right ways. They're saying all the right things. They're doing all the right things, and then they segregate themselves by centralizing. They will be relentlessly pursued and attacked. And it may not even be at first. It may be a few years and they say, hey, see, it worked. We did it. We're centralized and nothing bad happened. Until it does.
All right,
Damn,
let's knock
there's
out
so
this,
many comments.
Yeah, we got to catch up. Well, let me knock out these super chats first because Lord of the Ree is balling tonight, boys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lord of the Ree.
Even though you disagree with me, hey, that's what we need to do, Josh. I just need to disagree with chat, and then we can get some funding to kind of bring you on full time.
There you go.
Before we get there, groups like Proud Boys get infiltrated all the time. What makes Patriot Front invulnerable to that danger? We don't get the same privileges as Antifa.
Exactly.
I agree with you. But I would also go on the record and say that I don't know the ins and outs of Patriot Front. I don't know if they have anything in the way of stopping the infiltration. I would assume so. I mean, let me put it like this. If I was going to start a centralization of decentralized peoples or disaffected young men, it would probably look like a uniformed militia, preferably with masks. It would inevitably have to look like that. And it would probably look something like Patriot Front. I think, and again, the infiltration, I would have some system in place to where there is a proper vetting of people, right? This can be done through having, I don't know how legal this is, and I don't know if they do it, but this is what I would do. I would have some local cops that I trust that have access to crime data or systems that have people in them to vet them prior to joining. I'm not saying it's not gonna fix the thing, but it will slow the infiltration down significantly.
I'm appalled at why you can't see why that's a terrible idea.
Well, it would be a personal thing, right? So it wouldn't be extended out to people that I don't know in person. Does that make sense?
I'll be honest. If I were organizing a militia, I would not let you in because you're in the Marines, or we're in the Marines. Anyone
You
in the
already
military
lose, dude.
is suspect.
Anyone in the military is suspect? Not anyone. There's
Not
no way,
anyone.
dude.
No, not anyone. I'm joking with you up to a point.
I'm a Fed, boys. I'm a Fed. Get
but
me.
my point
Come get
being
me.
is all of that effort to accomplish what? A slightly better organized rally? I mean, Nick Fuentes
Zim wants to be the leader of future. I don't want to be the leader. I just want to carry a long gun and shoot.
Oh, there you I was going to say, this seems like a good old boy Southern
We're gonna
Confederate
start
LARP.
We're gonna start one, Josh. Me and you. We're gonna start a centralized militia. No, I don't want to be. I don't think my position is necessarily a leader. To be honest with you, Chad, I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I know I look good, but I didn't want to be. Ninja says, I see no problem. The way they look is such a small part of the problem. I don't think, see, I disagree with Josh entirely. I think the appearance is a benefit. I think the masks are necessary, right? Who wouldn't want, if you're joining a quote unquote militia, it necessarily requires some uniform. And I think slacks and a navy blue shirt is perfectly fine. Like,
okay,
Let
me put it this way.
We're going to take the world. We're conquering the world, boys. We're doing it tonight. I'm starting it tonight.
Go read Uncle H's Uncle H speeches.
He says, this isn't the right approach. You need to captivate people with the ideas and reach out to people with honesty and sincerity. The question is, how do you do that without AIPAC funding, if you will? Right? We have to have AIPAC funding to get into office.
Infiltrate the levers of power. It is
How?
It is going to take. Whenever you and I talk about stuff like this and you say it's going to happen in 5 years, no. None of it is going to happen in 5 years. It's going to happen in 100 years if it happens at all. It needs time.
No, it doesn't need time. It doesn't need time.
It does.
How fast did the Civil War pop off?
It's not.
Almost instantaneously. No, it's comparable. It is comparable. And in fact, it's more comparable than anything else, because we are on a time scale of extreme restriction, right? Every information is extremely fast right now. So if something happens, it is going to happen. It's not like we're waiting around 30 years to hear what's going on. It's not like we're sitting in Vietnam waiting to hear the war ended. Information is instantaneous. Lord of the Rings says it's more like 6 years. I think 6 years is a fair time frame.
So in 6 years, America is going to be all white nation.
No. The
So what are we talking
quote unquote revolution will have to occur.
This is what I'm saying. There's not going to be one in the way that you are thinking. There is not going to be.
How do we deport 200 million people?
Again, one of the institutions that you can't build a parallel to, but has to be infiltrated.
You can build a parallel to
the government.
You can. In this instance, you can.
You are never, ever going to build a parallel government.
Not the government, but you could build a parallel ICE, if you will.
Zeb, a parallel ICE, we can't even get our own. Like, it's not going to happen. If you keep
saying it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen.
If you organized a militia, and that's my point, is yes, it can happen one day, but in 2025, even before, sometime within 2030, if you organized people to start rounding up Hispanics and deporting them ourselves, they will come for you and throw you in jail. Maybe that could happen one day.
How about
but
this?
It's not anytime soon.
We'll recruit all of the ICE officers, and then they have no one to come after us.
That's it, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We can be real, and we can talk like that.
I bet you would be surprised at the amount of law enforcement that would be willing to stand down.
I think you'd be surprised at the amount of law enforcement that is going to.
No, I know.
It. No.
I know the amount that are going to enforce it.
I think it's most.
I would say it's a majority. Yes, I would say it's more than 50%.
I mean, it sounds good. Like, yeah, you're
But the
not
problem
you're
is
not going to get. The generals aren't going to tell the foot soldiers who are from South Carolina to go into South Carolina and start executing white people.
Ninja says government's collapse. I think so too. I think it's gonna happen sooner than later. And when the government collapses, there's no trust in the institutions anymore of government. But Josh probably doesn't believe that the United States government is going to collapse. I think the government collapse. I think the infrastructure that built the U.S., that the U.S. stands on, remains. And I know that's a little bit hard to kind of comprehend. Like, we're not going to have fallout like Venezuela or Greece, where the money is, the money might be worthless, but the infrastructure, the institutions of the systems of America will remain because they are just more, fundamentally run, if that makes sense. There's an off ramp for everyone if the government collapses.
I get what you're saying. I'm not saying that, and I don't even think that the government won't collapse. But here's the thing: is it's this idea that, like, okay, the government will collapse and we'll be the only ones there to pick up the pieces afterwards. No, like, the same people that allowed it to collapse will be there to pick up the pieces once we reassemble them. You think? No,
I don't think so. I don't think so, because this is a vacuum of power. There is no. Don't Zeb me. No.
Zebulon,
the people,
Jedediah boy. I don't know your middle name.
Anytime something collapses, it inevitably returns to a more naturalistic position, right? You're not going to have an influx of UN into the U.S. to rebuild it, because the U.S. is the one that funds and runs the UN. Right? You're not going to have Israeli soldiers come of IDF and come and enforce government organizations so that they can then fund AIPAC, because there's no funding AIPAC if there is no funding going to AIPAC from our government. Right? These flows of money only go out. It will never come in. And so once that destruction of the government, the collapse of the government occurs, then you're going to have a reverting to localization more so than anything, and then it'll be a rebuilding from there. Where are we at? What a Jewish thing to say.
Is he referring to you?
Probably.
Or one of the other comments?
No, it
Probably
won't.
that
As
one.
soon as it does, China invades. I disagree. I don't think America will ever be invaded with arms. It will be invaded through this idea of diversity.
Okay. But here's the thing. Let's play this out hypothetically.
Hold
Let's
on.
say
Hold on.
America completely collapses. It's no longer a superpower. Do you think the rest of the world is just going to leave us alone? Like China and Russia are
Again,
just
I
going to
think-
let us lie until we rebuild ourselves as this white ethnocentric nation?
No.
It's not.
I don't think the U.S. If the government collapses, the U.S. no longer exists. It will become localized. Maybe even state dependent. If the government collapses, the U.S. no longer exists. Though we're not going to be invaded because there is organization on a level that cannot be invaded. Right? That's my point. The infrastructure and the systems will still exist, even if a centralized localization, or the state or multi-state nations, if you will.
Okay, Zeb. Let me pose it to you this way.
Okay.
What do you think the Jews are more afraid of? People in masks and shields showing up to pro-life rallies or at the Capitol, or people hiding their power level and infiltrating the institutions subtly?
The Jews are the ones that hide their power level and infiltrate institutions.
And
we
they-
are not
and
Jewish.
they win.
And
they beat us.
because they are predisposed to this.
I get
we
it.
are
They're
not
better
like
at it.
them.
They're better at it, but the point
They're not
is
like us. They're not like us.
But the point is it's so like I'm not saying we do things like assassinate people.
We're not
like
communists. We're not Bolsheviks. We're not Jews.
But Scripture says, be as meek as sheep, but as cunning as snakes. We are called to be realistic, and I get that. Putting on a mask and putting on a shield and being in a club feels good, but it's not effective anymore.
Okay, you have to have one. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have both of these.
And that's
things.
true. That's true.
Having a let's just take Patriot Front for what it's worth without 5:30 without all the negatives that come with it. Let's just assume that they are what they say they are. They're not infiltrated. What it does is it allows people to be bold. It says, okay, those guys have something to them. They're saying some things I like. Okay, let me go out on a limb here and try to witness, if you will, to normies. I think it allows for people. What?
Scratch the scab. And
Oh Lord, Josh,
pop the.
You need a paper towel.
You got one over
Yeah,
there?
yeah. There's one over there.
All right.
I think. What were you talking about?
Centralization.
Oh yeah, the I don't think it's necessary to have them mutually exclusive or even separate. I think they can be one and the same, right? What's the point of the mask if it's not to be able to go out and do lawyer things? I think I don't know. Maybe I feel like we're kind of talking in circles.
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of said our piece, and the audience can make up their own minds. I don't think.
Where are we
At this
Where are we
point,
at?
one is going to convince.
Chat, did that Zoom link not work or nobody just wanted to join? I mean, it's fine. It's out there.
Sheesh. Sprung a leak.
Joe's over here bleeding.
I got eaten by
We're going long
mosquitoes
today,
over the
boys.
weekend. I know, dude. You were saying it had to be a shorter day, and now this is like our longest stream ever. Josh, you misquoted, bro. Be yea, therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah.
Arguing with Josh is like talking to. Well, I'm glad at least one person agrees with me. I mean, I know this is a hard take. And here's what I'll say. I know this is hard to agree with, and I fully expected Josh to disagree with me because he's a gripper, and that's what they do. They just disagree with people because meh. They want to do something, disagree. Not just kidding. Just giving Josh a little bit of a hard time.
Hard is the only way I like my time.
I would say, shout out Anthony W Show. Yeah,
Thank you,
me and
Anthony.
Me and Josh argue a little bit more off stream. Maybe we should do that more on stream.
Yeah, I think it was a good show. I think the debate is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect people to disagree with me, right? This is the same. Y'all talked about it this morning on the radio about this idea of people not getting vaccinated, right? This is a huge thing in 2020. Oh, you getting vaccinated? Oh, crazy. But then it turns out to be right. And I'm okay with you disagreeing with me in 4 years, 5 years, and you're like, yeah, you're right. It's okay, Josh. It's okay, chat. It's okay. I'll take care of you. Let's see. Lord of the Ree. Yo, shout out Lord of the Ree, champion of the stream. I can see why someone would have this take, but I think reasoning is slightly flawed. We don't have the same privileges the left does.
And that is my point.
I agree.
I agree with you, Zeb. Centralization is the best way to organize things like that. But the problem is it's also the best way for them to target us. We have to adapt our strategy. Just because it worked in the past doesn't mean it'll work now.
I'm not equating what we've done in the past to what we're doing now. What I'm equating is centralization is necessary for a movement.
I agree.
Let me take that back. Centralization is necessary to get something done within a movement or with a movement. Right? You can have a movement that is decentralized, and I think that's what we have. That's what the new right is. I think that's what everybody's referring to it, new right, new Christian right. I think that for any of that to come to fruition, there has to be centralization. Yeah, baby, I don't disagree. It can easily be infiltrated. All they have to do is attack one point. I agree. I think it can be easily infiltrated.
Because here's the thing. You and I agree. We just disagree on the timeline.
I think you think things happen faster than they do. With respect to organization,
that's like
with respect to organization, not actually historically or events. Hell Hydra. He said Hell Hydra.
Look at that shit. That's crazy.
Put some pressure on it. It'd be art. You got long socks?
Yeah.
Just get blood. It'd be okay. Here's a compromise.
Big ass mosquitoes.
A bunch of small centralized group that are self-contained.
Well, then it's not centralized.
Yeah, then it's not centralized. That's decentralized centralization. No.
Because here's the thing, even if you have them, because I think I get what he's saying, where if you have like small groups, but the leaders are like collaborating unofficially, I think that's what he's saying. But the thing is that assumes that the leaders will all agree all the time. It defeats the purpose of centralizing still.
It would be like the EU, right? It's a federalization. It's kind of, I guess, what it's kind of arguing for, right? Where states or nations are in a union. Right? This is what the United States essentially started as, of a federalization of states. And we saw how that went, Josh.
What was it? What were you saying?
The federalization of states. I mean, it eventually boiled down to a civil war. I think if you're going to have something like this, it's inevitably going to be a split. And this is Ninja's argument for Protestantism.
I was going to say, it's kind of funny that Ninja, who's Eastern Orthodox, is arguing for
centralization. He's on my side.
Okay, no, then it makes sense. My bad. Never mind.
True, the New Right movement is splintered, but you don't want to gather up the pieces so it can all be set aflame. I agree with this. I don't think all the pieces need to be gathered up. I think there is a overarching, let's call it umbrella movement that should be centralized and allow the things under that umbrella to be. They don't need organization. They can maintain their this is kind of what I'm arguing. You can you can fight a war on different fronts, right? Not everything needs to be centralized, but that centralization is necessary. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Josh? Like the umbrella, let's say the umbrella is the centralization and the unit that is centralized, and everything can fall under it without having to be associated necessarily with the umbrella itself. Centralization relies heavily on the trust of the leaders being corrupt. Yeah, I mean, this is the argument for a republic. This is the argument for that was it Plato makes in his Republic is that exactly that is to hold accountable the monarchs or the president, if you will. Here we go. Monarchy, Trinitarianism reflected in government and down. I think we're all saying the same thing. Isn't it y'all's bedtime? Yeah, it's Josh's bedtime. Monarchical Trinitarianism reflected in government and down. Maybe I'm not understanding. I might have to Google that one. Maximize effectiveness, minimize risk. What I'm saying is have groups like Patriot Front, but instead of just one, have a bunch of them that are independent and they follow the same structure, sort of like a franchise. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's possible.
That's not that.
I don't think it's possible.
Again, it defeats centralization. I get where you're coming from, but it's one of those things where it's like you're taking something that is decentralized and applying the attributes of centralization to it. I mean, if you could do that, then there would be no reason to centralize.
Yes, I think if you're going to make a case like this, I would say that we already have something like that. Right? This is again, when you could call it the new right. But the problem is it is decentralized. That is the problem. You have to have a core centralization. Not everything that falls under it necessarily has to be within that centralization, but there must be a centralization regardless. Let's try Zoom again next live. Whenever I finish this bathroom, and depending on the baby's schedule, Friday, I might not be here Friday, boys. Then we can definitely do some Zooms in the evening also. Next stream, we'll definitely do Zoom tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Thursday?
Thursday.
We'll definitely do Zoom a little bit earlier in stream tomorrow. Try to make that happen. We'll pick a topic. What do you want to pick, Josh?
I don't know right now.
We'll see. God is decentralized centralization. 3 persons, 1 shared nature and will. I would say that's centralization. Is God God?
Yeah, that's semantics. You ready to call it?
I guess Ninja is basically arguing.
Thank you, Sparky. You're my favorite. Balances. I don't hate you, Sparky. You're my favorite super chatter or commenter.
I'm gonna have to go do some Patriot Front googling. I need to look at things. We can do. Well, I don't want to do back-to-back streams, but I do want to do. There's a Thomas Rousseau that I watched a while back, and I remember watching it, and I was like, dude, yeah, I agree with that. And then it came to the question of like religion, and he said he wasn't
like pagan.
Yeah, and I was like, and then he started asking questions after that, and if he was a Christian, he would have had answers to those questions. I was like, dude, you're so close, man. Like you're right there. BBD. Oh gosh.
All right, I gotta get going.
All right,
but
why? Your girlfriend? No, I'm just kidding. that was mean. That was mean. I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry. That was
no. My boyfriend.
Thomas Rousseau. Was that his name? Yeah, that was his name. 11 months? 4 months? Or is that a clip? Oh, that's a clip. Did he do it again? 5 months. White supremacist anti-Zionism. Well, Patrick, that's another rabbit hole we can go down. Is PBD.
Rogan, Musk, Jones, a bunch of people watch these guys in video dressed up walking.
All right, I seriously got
you bounce. Chat. I'm gonna have to bounce here in a second too, but I thought it was a solid stream.
Appreciate it, stream. It was a good stream.
Appreciate it. Chat. Yeah, chat. Oh, solid. Let me catch up and then we'll bounce out of here real quick. Sparky, God bless, brother. If we were given the same opportunity to centralize without being taken advantage of, yes, we should obviously do that, but we can't. All right, dude. Later. Yeah, I think there's a necessary risk there. I think Josh would agree with that. He would agree with that. There's a risk there. I don't think he thinks it's necessary. Usually was the word salad. Lord of the Ree, new music. Yeah, everybody go check out Lord of the Ree. He's I think most of your stuff's on Rumble, isn't it? I don't know, that's where I pulled it from, but go check his channel out. He's got some music that he puts up. Great show. Telegram is better than Discord. FYI, Discord mods have been known to leak info of right wingers. Dude, Discord mods have access to Jean C. What's up, dude? Do they have access to Discords that they don't have access to? If that makes sense, I would assume so. I know Discords that have been shut down. So, and if Telegram, chat, let me know if Telegram's better or Gilded. I got a Gilded too. I just don't get on Telegram. I think Telegram might be better to do. It's more of a singular group chat. Sparky said Jubilee changed it to Jordan Peterson verse. Yeah, we went over that yesterday, and it started out as 1 Christian versus 20 atheists, and then Peterson got absolutely bodied by an atheist for not being a Christian because he denied being a Christian. So Jubilee changed the video. It was like less than 4 hours after it. Chris B, good stream. Thank you, brother. Chat. So Thomas listened to Bergman shoots the local McDonald's with a BB gun. Non-disaster. So Thomas listens to Burzum and shoots at the local McDonald's. I'm not sure exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, you can't separate Thomas Rousseau from Patriot Front, but what it seems to me as Patriot Front isn't as accurately represented by Thomas Rousseau as it probably could be. But again, I don't have any insider information at all, so I'm just kind of going off from what I can see. Yeah, Lord of the Ree said Long Walks music on the platforms. I'm assuming all the platforms. Long Walks music. Yeah, the intro for Touch Grass podcast is from Lord of the Ree. Solid guitar work and some other stuff. Sparky, peace out, brother. I'm going kind of long today, but why'd you drop that link earlier? Which link? I put out the Zoom link and I put out the Discord link. We might have to go to. I think Telegram would probably be better anyway, boys. If anybody objects directly to Telegram, let me know, and I'll try to stay pretty active on that. And I'll put out my crazy ideas so y'all can disagree with them. He said the problem with both arguments is that people are retarded. Yes, people are retarded. And this is kind of the discussion we were having earlier about orthodoxy is orthodoxy has a point where or Catholicism that more intelligent people should probably have more authority within interpretation of scripture because I guess with intelligence typically comes, I think intelligence and wisdom are linked and therefore discernment is linked with that. So kind of link those. Why Zoom link? I thought I was giving everybody the option to zoom in earlier, but nobody wanted to. So it should be working. If it's not, let me know. Varg Verkinus, famous pagan and frontman of Burzum, as well as a white nationalist, used to shoot at McDonald's with the BB gun. Dude, I got shot at with a BB gun when I first started driving, and chased it down and called the cops on the people. It was like one of those canister BB guns, put holes in the actual car. All right. This is a long.
From the
Let's just
Patriot
click
Front with this guy named Thomas Russo. They look like feds. Are they feds?
let's see.
Are you with the feds? Is this manipulation? Why has the point? But I think you may need to study a little bit of Hitler because
I don't think so.
I think listen, if you really are trying to do good in the world, which sounds like that's what you want to do, it's important to study history.
Sure.
And sometimes studying history isn't just the good and the just studying the good people. Sometimes you got to study the bad people as much as the good people to find out what drove them, what moved them, what pissed them off, and what led them to do something that was catastrophic. You're young. You sound like you're a true believer. I'm not convinced all of this is happening. I think something happened to get you to be believing this stuff. I don't know the relationship with mom.
Una, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it next live stream probably. I'm probably gonna bounce out of here. I just want to take a look at something real quick. Watch this text me. Yeah, chat, I'm bounce. Thank you for the stream today. Lord of the Reed, thank you for the super chats. We'll do. I'll have to line up with Josh. We'll do one specifically on Nick Fuentes and kind of hash that out, and then we'll do one specifically on Patriot Front. But I got to look into it a little bit more before we do that. So, and I guess parallel organizations, you know, like I mentioned, Blood Tribe or Proud Boys or whoever else falls into that category. But eeny, meeny, miny, mo. There we go. Chat. This one. There we go. That's better. Okay. Yeah, so we'll dive into some of that. Appreciate it, boys. Peace out. We will see you tomorrow, 2:30. If you haven't yet, give a like on the stream. And then when I get some time, I'll start doing actual videos. I want to do some deep dives and some other stuff, and instead of just live streams. And then we'll start clipping this a little bit more. But I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Peace.